Well, good afternoon and welcome, Doug Scott Kramer. I hope you like that intro.
That
Kinda,
intro was awesome, Claire. I was
yes,
mesmerized by it. That was really cool.
yes. I cannot take credit for creating it. It was created for me by Counter Talk. They do amazing work for me there. They kind of caught my vibe, and I truly appreciate them for it. Um,
Nice.
I absolutely love starting an afternoon chat with a fireside, little drink, maybe anything that warms you, and just totally relaxing. But
I love it.
welcome. I'm so
Welcome.
happy to have you here.
I'm
Yes.
happy that you had me on, Claire, and that you're spreading the word about, important topics. So,
Thank you. Thank you. And I see that you do the same. And I have, for everyone that's not familiar with Doug Scott Kramer, I have listed his Twitter and his channel down below. He is dazed, not confused. He's been doing this much longer than me and has a much more personal take on it. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about that because I'm going to let them all know as they're welcoming you in the chat and saying hello that you are an ex-Scientologist. Um,
unfortunately, yes.
Good. Yes, yes. I don't know anyone who says fortunately before that statement.
Well, if they're
You
in
know.
Scientology, they'll say fortunately and try to push it on
Mhm,
you. But yeah, once you become an
mhm,
ex, you have a bitter taste in your mouth usually.
mhm. Can you imagine? I cannot picture a Scientologist wanting to have a conversation like this with me.
No way. And they wouldn't, by the way. I mean,
Mhm,
that's the problem, Claire, with doing a channel on Scientology, because I am trying, it's sort of a channel for when a Scientologist or any cult member gets out, they can
mhm,
deprogram by going through the little series and the videos that I
mhm,
have up, step by step. So, yeah, uh, uh, that's kind of what that's kind of what the channel is about. But you know what? Not
mhm,
one Scientologist will listen to it or click on it, and I know that because as a Scientologist, all the information was out there for me to wake up. But we're
mhm,
programmed, and we can get into that how that works if you want later. But we're
mhm.
programmed definitely not to click on Claire S.
Not
Bear's
to.
channel on
It's
Scientology.
oh
Never.
sure. I'm sure because I use the hashtag that there's like big warning, like they're not gonna go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
Because in Scientology for me is one of the most damaging cults out there. I
Hmm.
have done some research. I've done other series on Nixium, on other cults and everything.
Hmm.
I've looked at. You may be familiar with Hassan's bite model and stuff. And
Absolutely.
I mean, I've even tried to. I've even had a conversation with another a psychologist, my friend Luke, and we tried to decide whether Hassan was correct in assigning a cult to the MAGA trend, to the Trump
Yeah. Yeah, I would.
conservatives, and
You
so
said
we
a
were
whole
like,
book on it too, Claire, by the
yeah,
way,
he
as
did,
you know. Yeah.
he did, but
The
I
cult of
can't.
Trump. Yeah.
I know the cult of Trump, but I think he went a little too far. I'm actually thinking, he went maybe just a little bit too far
I have to
because
confess to not reading that whole thing because
yeah,
of that
yeah.
possible very reason and slant, but I take its point.
I do take his point, and there is a lot of similarity there. But, you know, for the point just being that I'm very interested in cults, but Scientology seems to stand out on its own to me. Um,
Can I ask you why
basic
that is, Claire? I've always
Mhm.
wondered because as an ex-Scientologist, I know there's a fascination with it, but I have yet to figure it out. So as a non-Scientologist, why is it fascinating to you?
It is how it's well, for one, it is the all or nothing fascination. It seems like when I heard your story, which you can relate to also in how
Mhm,
your father became indoctrinated and how he gets the whole family in. It
mhm.
happens so quick.
Yep.
And it just seems to be there's a little bit more violence and aggression in the thought control. There's a little
Mhm.
bit more to me. It's just a little bit more. And well, I'll be honest. I always found it quite humorous because I grew up in a
Yes.
time where Dianetics was written, okay? And
Mhm.
it was all during the sci-fi era of books and, you know, this stuff. And I literally thought that L. Ron Hubbard wrote a sci-fi novel about what would happen to the world if we did this. I did not think he was
That's
serious.
so yeah,
Okay?
I
I did
understand
not
that.
think
I
he was
understand.
serious. I
Ah,
didn't take
ah,
it
ah.
serious. I thought it was literally a book, a joke, okay? It was like reading Huxley. Like, I read Huxley, and then I read L. Ron Hubbard, and I'm like, "Okay, well,
Did you know that
okay."
Huxley used to be a Scientologist for a little while?
Yes,
Up
I
until he
did, but
died? Yeah.
yes, unfortunately, that
Yeah.
you see, there's that word again. Why is that like it's like they go together, like,
Mhm.
unfortunately in Scientology.
Scientology and unfortunately. And why did I
Mhm.
do that also we
Mhm.
can throw in
And
there.
the other part is the absolute ability that they have to not let others see that they're really just an MLM, because they
Mhm.
literally make
Mhm.
you pay for their knowledge. They make you
Exactly.
sign a contract that you're gonna be them before they tell you what a them is, and you pay all the
Mhm.
way up the ladder to support this saving the world. We're going to just be better people. We've got the way. You're missing something. We know what it is.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
throw me a buck and I'm going to show you. Oh, but not today. Another buck maybe
Yeah.
tomorrow. Another buck maybe
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yes.
Another buck. You know what I mean? So I
Yes,
know
I know
that's
what
a
you
very
mean.
simple, you know, I'm just answering your question because
No,
I
no,
know
I'm
that's a very
fascinated.
simple way to put it, but that's the read to me. When I read that room, if you put me in the room Scientology and I read it, that's what I see.
Do you think it's a little more from your perspective, it's more extreme than, say, the other ones? Maybe not Heaven's Gate or something like that, but do you find it stands out more in the field of cults?
I do, because if you look at some of the major cults, even when
Mhm.
I did the research on Nixium, and it's so funny how you've turned the tables on me. You're really good here.
I'm
I'm
so
like,
sorry. I
no,
didn't
don't
I we
apologize.
we'll
I
totally get into
love
it,
it.
Claire. I
No,
just am
I want
so
you to be
interested.
you. No, don't
Okay.
apologize. I want you to be
Okay.
you. That's fascinating to me. That is like that's fascinating to me. But when I did the research on Nixium, what I found is they used a lot of Scientology techniques, and they
Absolutely.
were totally into all these techniques, and they were
Mhm.
going back and they're talking about the handshakes, the body state, the use of language,
Mhm.
which was prominent. And you and I were talking about this before a little bit. We got on it, the use of language and the control of language and things that you can be said, not said, or whatever. But
Mhm.
that fascinated me, that all of the larger cults that really got into stuff were using Scientology techniques.
So
So,
many
like,
of them, Claire, all the way
even
going back to the
yeah.
50s and 60s even, even Manson was
Mhm.
into it for a little while.
Mhm. And that is what makes it stand out to me, because, like,
Mhm.
it seems to be the source. Like, "Oh, you wanna be a
Mhm.
cult? You wanna be a cult? Let's read up on Scientology." Like, they're doing it.
It's
Like,
true.
yeah.
It's
And
absolutely true.
they're in every country. They have different rules. They're able to,
Mhm.
um kinda, I'm from I'm from New Jersey, so I also look at it like a bit of a connected kind of thing. They have a unique way. They know where to put their money. They know how to use their money. They know they know how to dance on the edge, so to
Yes.
speak. And it's working for them in a way, because I have noticed the numbers dwindle. You notice the numbers dwindling
They
in many
definitely are,
countries.
but they have
Mhm.
so much money, and all they need is their top whales, like 100 or so people
Mhm.
that just donate money just to donate to their slush
Mhm.
fund to protect them. So they could
Mhm.
lose. They've never had a lot of membership, Claire. I mean, their top membership was 100,000 plus in the 80s, and they've been
Mhm.
dying ever since. So
Yep.
now they're supposedly around 20 to 25,000. I get that's the guess
Mhm.
for all. That's including staff, Sea Org, and the public members. That's all Scientologists everywhere. And
Mhm.
Tony Ortega just put out a consensus a couple days ago on, the actual numbers and, this territory,
Mhm.
that territory. And they're so small. It was like, 1,100 in Britain and, LA, where I live, I think has the second highest concentration of Scientologists, only second to
Mhm.
Florida,
Right.
Clearwater, Florida, which is one of
Mhm.
their quote
And
unquote headquarters.
And if we look at that East Coast, West Coast thing, like, why would it
Hmm.
be like that? Well, in Hollywood, they have a
Hmm.
clear hook in
Absolutely.
Hollywood, in California, in Hollywood for presence, money, prestige, the whole thing. And from what I understand, a separate set of rules, which I want to ask you about because I know you
Hmm.
went into Hollywood after,
Hmm.
and I want you to tell your story there. Well, and then in Florida, that would be for the older, richer crowd because let's not forget Palm Springs,
Right.
all
Oh,
this. This
right.
is money in
Right.
Florida.
Of
Okay,
course.
everybody looks at, oh, it's just the right. Most of us look at it politically as, oh, it's just the alt right and extremists and stuff. No, there is
Hmm.
so much money to be had in the upper echelon in Florida in a mindset of people just looking for their 15 minutes. These are retired
Hmm.
people who are now at the end of their industry or their careers or whatever they did, and they need that shiny apple given to them. They need that
Yes.
light shown on them, and
Yes.
Scientology seems to know how to shine that on them to get that $1,000,000.
Claire,
Like,
there
quick.
specifically are policies that Hubbard talks about when capturing
Mhm,
Scientologists about trying to capture people that past their fame, and then you can rehabilitate the artist, get them
mhm,
when I can't remember the policies, of course, because it's been so long, but yet
mhm,
specifically they go after not just celebrities for the obvious reason that they'll add
mhm,
prestige to the cult itself, but they try to get people that are down and out, their career is fading, blah, 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 because they have the technology, as they say, to
mhm.
revive that career. And just like an abusive relationship, Claire, they'll love bomb you, they'll help the
Yep.
artist, and they will try to get them, running their career. So they'll attribute all their success to Scientology, like with John Travolta and other
Mhm,
celebrities. That's a big reason why they're captured, because they help John initially, for example, and then
mhm,
he's stuck in there forever going, I attribute all my wins and my success as an actor to Scientology. That's a
mhm.
real mind F, if you know what I mean.
Yup,
You
it
know?
is. It's just like, "Oh, you helped me with my playing field and everything like that." But
Mhm.
now the thing with Scientology is they give you the belief like it's like when you're in for life. It's like the mafia. It's like there's
It
only
is
it
very close
it's
to that.
like,
It really
you know
it's not even a metaphor. It really
no,
is
it
similar to
is
the
because
mafia in
they
many
don't
ways.
really want you to get out. Now we're gonna
Exactly.
circle back
It
to your story because
Sure.
just to lay the groundwork, from what I did go over a lot of what's out there on you, and you're speaking yourself. You're very open about it, and apparently, were a Scientologist from the age of about 9 when your
Mhm.
father became a Scientologist. So you came in as a family, correct?
Yep. Do you want me to tell the story real quick, Claire?
I do. You go right ahead.
Okay, so I'll try to make this brief. When I was around 9 or 10 years old, obviously I can't remember exactly when, but my dad just went to work one day as my dad, and he came back a completely different person, spouting to my mom that he needs to do Scientology. And what happened is Scientology tries to appeal to they try to push your buttons, and that's science. I don't know if that's a human word or not, but pushing people's buttons is like something that people would respond to. So maybe people have problems with communication or their family or whatever that you're
Mhm,
looking that normal humans want to fix. My dad saw an ad in the newspaper when he was at work that morning, and the buttons that were right below an ad that said Dianetics was something along the lines of learn how to communicate better or fix your family problems or whatever.
mhm.
And my dad is an introvert like me, and he has problems communicating with us. So to him, that was his ruin, what they call it in Scientology. What was ruining my father? So he just on that ad, and people that might remember Dianetics was the exploding volcano, go
Yep.
buy the book at Walden Books. They might remember that from what, the 70s and 80s or whatever.
It was the most popular
Mhm.
paperback back then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was
Mhm.
like the Dale Carnegie of self-help. Before that, it was
Yeah.
how to win friends and influence people. Then Hubbard comes along and it was kind of like that. But it's far, far deeper, as you know, and far
Mhm,
more evil as you go down the rabbit hole in Scientology. You're not just picking up a self-help book. There's a whole
mhm,
lifestyle that goes with it. So anyways, my dad goes down to the mission, which was they had missions back in the day. Now they have
Mhm.
what's called orgs. And this is about 10 minutes from his work. So obviously I wasn't there that day. He's recounted some of it to me. And what happened is, I let me take a guess because, like I said, I wasn't a fly on the wall, but I know what they do, and I know how my
Mhm.
dad came back that night. So he went down there. He would have had his ruin found by a guy named Jim Hamry, who was the registrar. And if I throw out too many Scientology names, Claire, just jump in because I don't want to overwhelm people. But the
Oh,
registrar is the person who signs people up. So they
right.
would have taken my dad into a room, found his ruin, and then what that means is they sit there for hours on end after
Yeah, that
going.
that term right there is like find your ruin, and it's like,
That always trips people out. Does that
you know
make?
what I
Yeah,
equates that to it? They're looking for your soft underbelly, people. They're looking for the spot.
exactly,
They're looking for the
exactly.
in. They're looking where
Hmm.
you're weak, what you
Yep.
need, what's your hook, what's gonna be, how are we gonna sell this to you because we need you to need us. Mhm.
Exactly. They don't really tell you that though, Claire. It's not like they tell you
No.
that let's find your ruin. They kind of only tell
No,
that
they
behind
just
the
do it.
scenes, but
They do it. They
yeah,
well, when you
exactly.
become an auditor or you become a registrar, of course,
Yeah,
they're
then you
gonna
learn all
tell
about
you.
it.
Right.
Exactly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So they
Oh.
would have found my dad's ruin that day. I mean, I have my suspicions about what it is, but I don't know exactly. So I've never really said it out loud. But let's just say it was something pretty deep. And
Mhm.
so they found my dad's ruin that day. And what they would have done is, I suspect, they sold him the communication course and something called life repair. There's two parts in Scientology. There's a training side, and then there's what's called an auditing side, which is where you hold those soup cans and you do quote unquote psychotherapy. So my the life repair is on the auditing side, the soup can part, and that's a few $1,000s. And then the
Mhm.
communication course is on the training side, and that's where you get hypnotized, but they say you're taking a communication course. So that's basically what they would have sold my dad. He came back to the house that night talking different. He had a glazed look in his eye. I describe it now as basically being hypnotized. And he told my mom that he needs to borrow around $10,000 from his brother to do this new thing that he discovered called Scientology. Obviously, my mom didn't know what Scientology was. This was a shock to her that,
Mhm.
where are we going to get this money? How are you going to pay it back? Blah, blah, blah. It caused a long argument between my mother and my father for weeks on end. I didn't know what they were arguing. I never saw them argue this intensely either.
Mhm.
Long story short, my dad convinced my mom to go down to the church, and her ruin was found, and she got sucked in. And then
Mm.
they trained both of them how to break me down. And the way they would do that is I would get in trouble with just typical teenage rebellion stuff, nothing too
Mhm.
bad. And they would sit me down and they would allow me to offload and tell them what's going on and be open and honest with them. And then they would say, we'd like to pay for a course for 50 or $100 to help you out and, to go down to Scientology because we
Yeah,
feel it'll
yeah,
help you out with your problems. So that's how they got my ass down there.
yeah.
But I didn't
They
take to it right away, Claire. I mean, they really had
yeah.
to work on me.
No, but I can imagine as a teenager just having these people just say, "Yeah, come, we'll listen to you," and then saying,
Hmm.
we'll even pay for it for you. Well, everybody else is paying for it, but we'll pay for it for you so you can hear how
It
good
was
this is
either
going to
that
be
or
for
I was
you.
gonna get
Yeah,
punished. So it wasn't
yeah.
like a total good faith on their part. It was sort of like a
No,
a double bind, do you wanna be punished for a month or just take this course that we'll pay for at Scientology?
that's the whole thing there about the what you're talking about punishment. What they talk about these ethics reviews and like going through the auditing and
Mhm,
all. um, was the most distasteful part about trials that I've read and about ex-Scientologist stories coming out and everything, about
mhm,
everything that happened to you, you having to take responsibility because you're actually there's something wrong somewhere
mhm.
that
Yep,
you're actually brought it on yourself,
yep,
like and in a way, I can admire the wanting to take accountability because this
mhm,
is, in all honesty, it's a shite world sometimes.
mhm.
We don't really live in a perfect place to begin with, and there are bad
Yes,
people. There are bad things that happen for no reason whatsoever, and you can't find it. And it's like it's kind of evil to twist that around and say that
it
all of that
is.
is because we were like born with something in us that is just not
Yeah,
right. And
yeah,
um it it does go to that soft underbelly of us, all of us that have that vulnerability that for some reason we all naggingly think that immediately when something bad happens. And I'm not saying we dwell on it,
Mhm.
or some people are positive and they just go, but everybody once in a while just gets that inkling. Like even me, your friend stabs you in
Mhm.
the back, or like,
Mhm.
the day don't go right and you're like, what did I do? That's like
Mhm.
almost the first thing that comes out of your mouth. What the hell did I do?
If
You
you're
know?
not a psychopath, if you're a psychopath,
Yeah.
they don't give a
Then you
crap.
don't
But yeah,
care. Then you don't
99,
care.
95
Yeah.
percent of people would say what you just said,
Hmm.
yes.
Yeah. So like,
They
you
really
know,
do play on that too, Claire.
hmm
That's a good point. All cults do, but
hmm
specifically with their ethics and everything. Yeah, that's
hmm
exactly right. And who
yeah.
doesn't have weaknesses? And any predator like Scientology is an expert at finding out those weak spots.
It totally is. But I can imagine coming in as a child. You see, you coming in at that young, they use the family part against you, the us
Mhm.
or them mostly, because children naturally have great eyesight and perception. They don't even know
Mhm.
why they feel the way they feel. I'm sure you felt uncomfortable. I'm sure you were like, yeah, right, dude.
Yes.
Like, yeah, right, dude. And I could just
Yes.
picture you sitting there with your hand up going, are you kidding me? Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me with this stuff?
Yeah.
And because you have that, you're not jaded by the world yet. You haven't doubted your children are remarkably unable to doubt themselves immediately.
I
It's
know,
a
and then they get
beautiful, beautiful
it
thing.
is beautiful, and then they get crushed with their parental
Right.
programming or their religion
Right.
gets pushed on them, and then they go and then that
Right.
beautiful, wide open awareness and curiosity just gets destroyed as they grow up,
It did, and I feel for you. Of your story, that's the part that bothers me the most, is that you were at an age where you were growing and learning, and you're coming into adulthood, and that
Mhm.
this is all being used against you. You're actually
Yeah.
manipulated into either you're with us or you lost your family. And
Yeah.
who at like 10, 11, 12, 13 wants to think of a world without their family? You're not ready yet, regardless of how grown
Exactly.
you think you are, because and we're teenagers, we're invincible, we think we know
Mhm.
everything. But we also know we're not grown enough. We don't want to take care of ourselves either. It's kind of warm in the house. There's people to talk to. Food's on the table. Like, I don't want to lose this, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and here they are. They're like, they're just like somehow or other, that's the choice.
It
It's
really
now,
is. It really is.
and it's unfortunate. They only have to get one member of a family to get them
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part, is how fast it happened with your dad. When you tell that story that it's only like the one day he just came
Yeah.
back different, I'm like, what did they do to him? Like,
That's what I
what?
said.
Hmm,
Yeah.
they, mm. Like, I don't, I'm sure they didn't waterboard him or torture him or anything,
No,
but
they don't do any of the weird
manipulation,
stuff. Strictly manipulation, yeah.
mental manipulation, using your own beliefs and thoughts against you to get what they
Exactly.
want.
Yep.
And, wow, that was some registrar that he met
He
because
was
that
really
happened.
good too,
But
by the way.
yeah.
The guy that I told you about, Jim Hamry, he was a
Mhm,
professional. That mission had all the top statistics. They'd win something called the
mhm,
birthday game every year. They were professionals at manipulating people. But
mm,
again, they didn't know either, Claire. Like Jim Hamry was a good guy. He was just under pressure too. And we
mhm,
all believe there's pressure from above, and then it gets pushed down to Jim and then onto the
mhm.
public like me. So it's a crazy environment, but we really
It's
were brainwashed, so we believe and he believed in what he was selling. He didn't necessarily feel like he was manipulating me, and
yeah,
it's for the greater good. They always nothing anything goes in Scientology, like, they had the offices bugged, and he used
mhm,
all sorts of techniques to manipulate the crap out of me, and particularly my dad, to get a lot of money out of him. But
mhm.
anything goes in Scientology because they tell you it's for the greater good. It doesn't really matter if you have to
True.
go into debt or manipulate the person. Whatever it takes to get them in here, it's all for, their good that they can't see yet, but they'll
'Cause they're
thank you
doing
once they get
so
in.
good,
Yeah.
because 'cause they're supposed to be doing so good for the world, because
Mhm.
you're contributing. Because if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the perception from talking to people that have been in Scientology or have researched on it is that they use this desire to do good for others and to change the world, to make it a better place, to save the planet, because we can all see that bad things happen and things are going
Mhm.
awry. They actually use that hook, and then they show you some of the good things they do. Oh, we built a school here, or oh, we did this there, and they're
Drug
actually
outreach programs
right.
here, we
Yeah,
yep.
we're saving, people. Which drug outreach programs? That's just to get them so they can become Scientologists. Like, that was like
Yep.
weird. Everybody
Yep.
that got out of that program became a Scientologist. What?
You're
Like,
talking about
what?
Narconon. They have a million
Yeah.
different front groups, Claire, so they don't even say that they're Scientology, yet they're 100% Scientology. And
See?
audience,
Yeah.
what she's referring to is something called Narconon, just so you can know to stay away from it if you're
Mhm,
seeking drug or alcohol treatment, because they have them all over the world. They sound like
mhm,
Al-Anon or whatever. He
mhm,
chose these words to kind of confuse people. So just make sure you never go to Narconon because it's
mhm.
100% Scientology in disguise. And they have a million of those front groups, Claire, to
Yes,
rope people into
and
Scientology.
thankfully, at least the people that are in it, you will get off of drugs, but you're gonna get on Scientology,
That's the
okay? That's
point.
the
You
problem.
replace
It's
drugs
gonna
with
be
the
bait
drug of
and switch.
Scientology.
It's gonna
Exactly
be a
right.
bait and switch,
That's what
which
happened
is
to me. Yep.
because I won't disparage their work as far as, the rehab itself. They do get them off drugs, but what they do at the same
Mhm.
time is get you on Scientology. There's a big push to get you on Scientology because of it.
Exactly.
And because of your vulnerable state, I find that a little creepy. Okay,
It's
Scientology, like, come
evil. It's
on.
evil
It's really
to manipulate
creepy.
someone's desire to I
Mhm,
mean, think about that, Claire, some, family members paying like thousands and thousands of dollars to get their kid
mhm,
off drugs. They go online, it's, a $50,000 program or whatever, and they have
mhm.
no idea that they're sending their kid down to get programmed directly
Right.
into Scientology. And many
Mhm,
people become staff members of Scientology after they get out of the,
mhm.
Narconon. They just slide into Scientology
Yeah.
slowly but surely.
And that's true, and that was a question that's something that came up when I was speaking with Chris Shelton, who I know you've
Mhm.
also spoke with. You've
I haven't
spoken with
spoke with them
everybody.
yet.
No?
I
Okay.
spoke with
He's
Aaron Smith
wonderful.
Levin and Tony so far, the
And
ex.
Tony Ortega, right, who, I'm just gonna everybody knows, so shout him out every single day. So does Doug on
Mhm,
his channel and everywhere he
mhm,
goes. The man has been so impressive and open and getting the information out there and the work
mhm,
and putting himself in that trial every day
mhm.
with Scientologists staring at him,
Can you imagine that, by
staring
the
at
way?
him every
He's
day.
got balls for doing that because I
He
wouldn't
does. I
wanna
give
be
him
in that
great
courtroom
credit.
with those
Yeah.
people.
Oh, man, they argued about the man getting a burrito. Like, come on. Like,
I
that was
know.
ridiculous. I
Give the
know,
man
so
a
weird.
burrito for
Yes,
God's
it's like,
sakes.
that Scientologist reporter guy. We're like, "Oh, okay." But anyway,
Yeah.
he's doing great work. He is, Doug is, Chris is, all of those who are out there actually trying to get information out to combat the misinformation that comes out.
Mhm.
I have to give you all a great credit. But on that, I meant to say that when we're speaking on it, okay, we're not actually condemning anyone who is a Scientologist.
Correct. Good
I
point.
don't I don't want to say that, okay, being a Scientologist to me now, and I got a little bit of heat on this on my Masterson trial, just a little bit.
Mhm,
But when I look at the whole culture that Scientology is creating. They are creating victims, every single one of them. I cannot
mhm.
disparage an actual Scientologist because I look at them almost as they are, if not in this moment, will soon be a victim of Scientology in some
Yep.
way, somehow.
Yep.
Especially what they do to you when you try to leave.
Yep.
Um, the
That
strength that you
Mhm.
had to show to get away from them and what you may have had to put up with, I commend you that you're
Thank you
here
very much, Claire. That means a lot
speaking
to
on
me.
it because if it was me, I can't even imagine. I'd be hiding, I'd be running. The courage it takes to speak out on this organization, if you've been a part of it, is incredible, and everyone needs to know that. And that's the one thing I want. If anybody takes that away from the conversation here with you, it is your strength and courage just to be here years later, just talking about it. And I want you to talk on that. That was a process. That took you a long time, didn't it?
Yeah, and thank you, by the way. I'm not so sure it's courage just so much as frustration and sort of like an impulse to
Hey,
need
courage comes
to,
from everywhere. Like, that's how you build your courage, right? You get so damn
Yeah, you just have to
everybody
do it.
understands that your frustration, you're so damn mad, you gotta do
Mhm,
something. So what do we do? Jump
mhm.
on a box and scream at the top of your lungs. I
Yeah.
encourage you to do that, Doug, and keep doing it every
Thank you
day.
very much, Claire. I appreciate that. Uh-huh. 'Cause,
But
yeah, I mean, what you wanna talk about, like, the whole I mean, I went through hell coming out of this thing
mhm.
because
Now you
often
were how
Mhm.
long were you in Scientology? If you got in at around 9 or
Okay,
so.
9 or so, and then I really took to it around 19, fresh out of high school, when I was in a vulnerable point, which is when they get cult members. But what would happen, Claire, is so they would just I get in trouble a lot, and then they'd manipulate me. "Do you wanna be punished, or do you wanna go take a course in Scientology?"
Mhm.
Initially, I told them to go fuck themselves. I'll take the punishment. But after a while, I was just like, oh, I can get through these stupid courses. It'll be much quicker than the being locked in my room or whatever for a few weeks. Yeah, okay, I'll just take the courses. So being in and around it multiple times through that manipulation, the seeds of indoctrination were going in. Because I got to tell you, Claire, it makes a heck of a lot of sense at the beginning because of the ethics technology. They call it
Mhm.
technology. There's no, I hate that word. But in other words, they're selling it as a science. It's a science of how to stop being a bad kid, Doug. It's a science of how to get your ethics in, as they say. So I
Oh.
did feel like a bad person because I was rebellious and it was always my fault. And I trust my freaking parents. I didn't like
Mhm.
Scientology and my dad came back with that hypnotized look, but he's my freaking dad. And as you know,
Right.
you look up to
Mhm.
your parents like they're God until you
Mhm.
actually go your own way, hopefully.
Right,
That
well, until
process
you
was
realize they're
massively
just
stunted. Yeah.
until you realize they're human, right? That's what we all go through, till you realize
Yeah.
they're just human, just like
You
us.
can't
It's
be
like,
just a
"Wow."
human in
Yeah.
Scientology, though, that you have to be a
No.
superhuman, and even kids are looked at as, like, one of the big disconnects with my father and in Scientology is that you view your kids as beings that have lived many, many lifetimes before, and you already have that knowledge. It's just buried in your subconscious. So because of that idea, you don't treat your kids as this is just a game, Claire. You're just my son in this
Right.
lifetime, and maybe we'll get along, maybe we won't. But Scientology is the most important thing. Everything is
Mhm.
very desensitized in Scientology. It rips your
Yes.
humanity away.
Children aren't children, families are not together inside, very often once you get
Unless
into
they're
the
all
separate orbit,
Scientologists. Yeah.
unless they're all Scientologists, and then, uh, children aren't children. Children aren't treated as children, like you said, you're just in the process, you're just trying to speed up the process to get them there because it's
Mhm.
all there already,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
and that's where that concept comes from, that mentality out there where they say, "Well, they're so bad to the kids, they don't let them be kids and everything." It's because they truly do not believe, they feel there's inside them somewhere is the fully grown
Yep.
consciousness of where they want you to be.
Yep.
And so
Mhm.
that is what Scientology is kinda like preaching at you, like, it's
Yeah,
your job to speed up the process, and this is how you do it. "Give me 50
exactly.
grand and I'll give you the key."
Exactly.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
before they do that, they obviously give you a taste of it, and they can put you into
Mhm.
ecstatic states of mind. A lot of Scientology is hypnosis. So as a kid, I was getting blown out of my mind in these hypnosis sessions and going, I didn't have another explanation for it. So since I didn't know basic psychology or hypnotism or what the hell was happening or going into altered states of consciousness, I
Uh-huh.
felt like I was on drugs. It blew my freaking mind away. And remember we were
Wow.
talking about earlier how you replace your drug addiction with Scientology. Well,
You do. Mhm.
they really can get you high in a quote unquote natural way, but the high is simply just, it's the same high you can get just by meditating or something. You kind of go
Mhm.
out there, you go into different parts of your mind.
Mhm.
And they to me, Claire, that was the thing that finally got me because
That's the moment, yeah.
yeah, there's a few moments, but, since I was in and around it, I started out with something called the communication course, which is kinda one of the first things you do in their little bridge, and even
Mhm.
then, I would just get blown out of my mind often. In order to pass something in Scientology, you have to have what they call a win, and
Mhm.
basically that means, going into an altered state of consciousness and have new revelations about your particular problems of the day or whatever the realization is. But they do, like I said, Hubbard was a master hypnotist. It's all based around that. And so you're going to have some, if you don't have another frame of reference to know what's happening to you, you're going to attribute that ecstatic state of high that you
Mhm.
get and then once you buy to Scientology, and then once you buy into that, it makes you a lot more suggestible. And all the rest of Scientology, even the crazy stuff, is easy to dismiss because you initially got that high. So you never forget that. And then because that's what I was wanting, and that's what a lot of Scientologists were wanting. So you put up with a lot of stuff because you feel like the tech is right because you experienced it. You experienced, this incredible feeling, which is hard to describe, by the way, but it's definitely what Scientology produces, and it's the dopamine hit, and
Mhm.
it's what gets people addicted to Scientology and willing to
Right.
put up with enormous amounts of crap to get that high again.
And that's the thing, they don't get that actual chemical release, the endorphins, the dopamine, like you said, that
Mhm.
actually comes from these kind of realizations and stuff, and how manipulative that can be when they
Yes,
realize and how structured it is to actually get you there. And like you said,
exactly.
the hypnosis part of it really resonates with me because I've read a lot on that, that just the use of certain phrases and sentences
Mhm.
that they repeat over and over while they're
Yep,
talking to you
yep,
can lull you into a state, and it is
yep.
on purpose that they are instructed to do it
Absolutely,
that way. I know Keith
absolutely.
Raniere used this technique very
Yep.
much in was fascinated with it and studied it with it, and he and Nancy Salzman, like, she was very good. She could control a room, and she did it with the
Mhm.
words that she used and how she did
Exactly,
it.
NLP,
And mhm.
neuro-linguistic programming,
Yup,
yes.
and that they went back all the way back to the same training with the same people that are in Scientology doing it, um, and using it very like second nature after
Yeah,
you've been
and
there
you
for a
know he
while.
ripped off so much of Scientology. The words, the way that they
Mhm.
manipulate, it's
Oh,
almost
yeah,
like
they did.
yeah.
He decided he didn't wanna pay the money, and he
I
just
think
wanted to do
so.
it himself, and he just it's my opinion that he just, like, took a little offshoot and did a little more like, he just thought it was
Yes,
a good
and
idea, and he's gonna do
so
it.
many people have done
Mhm,
that before. So many
mhm.
psychopaths have gone into Scientology briefly, Claire, or like you said, they maybe get some books or whatever, and they recognize, "Oh my gosh, this is the perfect mind
It's a
control
perfect
machine."
it's a mind control
Scientology is a
MLM.
perfect model of how to
Oh,
actually really do it. It's the most
yes.
extreme LMM because it's got
That's yep.
every mind control technique and their mother thrown into it. And like you said, Claire, it's perfected and it's meant to be that way and it's laid
That's
out.
why I look at it that way as the one when
I
you ask why
see.
I
That
thought
makes a
that,
lot of
that's what it
sense
is.
now. Yeah,
Um,
that makes
be
sense.
because if you look at a lot of the cults, you could always trace them back to it in some way, and
It's
somehow.
so bizarre, but you're right.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
never understood that, but it is the model, it seems.
mhm. It's like the difference between, like, I'll just use a Oreo cookie as an example because I just did a review with a friend, like, just silly. But if you have a real Oreo and then you have, like, all the knockoff Oreos, like the name brands in the stores and stuff like that, they all look like the cookie. But the one over there with the big name and the shiny package that everybody recognize, that's the difference with Scientology and all the other cults.
Thank you for
Okay.
painting that picture to me, because like I
Okay.
said, I'm
Yeah.
still trying to get other people's viewpoints, because I
Mhm,
was a Scientologist, so I'll never be able to
mhm.
unbe an X. So, yeah, I'm always curious how you and other people see it, but that
Yeah,
makes sense.
they are the shiny package with the name brand and the technique, and everybody else is gonna model themselves after it. Now everybody
Yeah.
else is gonna get some play on the market, because people aren't gonna wanna spend the money,
Mhm,
or there's a little hook, or maybe they got a
mhm.
flavor that they like, but they're still all a knockoff of the Oreo when you look at
Well
it,
said, well said.
it's like, because they've got the whole thing going on there, So, yeah, but, yeah, I like to speak in little colored pictures like that. Sorry, I digress. I just
No, I like it. It gives me that communicates, Claire, as they say in Scientology. Yeah, I got
Oy! Oh,
that.
no! Oh,
I got that.
no!
Don't worry, I'm not gonna do any of my Scientology Jedi mind tricks on anybody.
If
I
I
I don't
start
even like giving
croaking or
examples.
chirping like a bird, people, like, call help, okay?
Save it. No, there's oh my god, this is one of the things I try to be careful of because I can
Oh,
go
no,
back into
you do.
Scientology mode easily, but I do
Mhm,
not use these tools to manipulate people at all. I don't, I
mm-mm.
oh god, I'm so
Oh, no.
disgusted that I
You're
learned these
so
frickin' tools.
open, I don't see you being able to the only way you could manipulate is to make people feel comfortable with your openness, and that's it, and that's
They
not me.
even think that's manipulation, Claire. I mean,
Well, then I'm in trouble. I'm in a
no,
big
I'm
amount of
not doing
trouble.
that though. Like, I'll give you an example.
No,
I
I
went
meant
on a
I do that. Like, you could be in
oh,
trouble.
but you're
I
not an
could be redoctoring you.
ex-Scientologist, so
No,
people
I'm
won't
not.
accuse you of that, but you know what, Claire? I did a interview a while ago with a guy named Andrew Gold who covers cults a lot, and I accidentally kinda said his name too much, and Scientologists are known, especially when you're on staff, for
Uh-huh.
constantly saying the person's name, and it's a technique to
It
get
is.
get somebody under control, but you know what? That wasn't my Scientology training, and I wasn't doing that to manipulate Andrew or anybody. I'm just
Mhm,
talking to him on the other line. I'm on the internet, and I'm trying to make a connection with him. So for me, if I say his name, I feel more
mhm.
connected with him because
Connected because that's what he does,
but I
and
wasn't trying to manipulate anybody. But
no, you were
Claire, they
trying to bring
accuse me
comfort.
of pulling Scientology
Well, I won't. I
Jedi
won't.
mind tricks. Yeah.
No,
I
no,
just wanna
because
let
like,
people know.
yeah, it wouldn't work on me anyway. I'm from Jersey. Like, I'm
Exactly.
immune.
That's
I'm
that's a
immune.
good
I
point, though. People that
Yes,
have street
like,
smarts people
yeah.
that, have street smarts are definitely less susceptible
I
to
don't know.
being
I
pulled
do
in.
consider myself one of the more naive people out here because I have this way of looking at the world. I refuse to take my rose-colored glasses off because I want to look at the world and act the way it is, the way I want it to be. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I
Mhm.
want it to be this good. I want everybody to be on the up and up about everything. And they're not. And I'm not dumb, like I know that, but I refuse to act and make my decisions based on the fact that the world is shite,
You
that I
see the
know it is.
glass is half full, in other words. Yes, me too. You actually
Mhm.
would be a
No,
perfect
actually,
candidate for a cult like that too, because you
yeah,
know, you
they're gonna come for me now. They're gonna
I
be,
was
"Hey, wait, maybe that bear is a candidate. Maybe that's how we get her to shut up. We'll
Well,
just pick
you
one of
like
us."
to help, you like to help, you see the world in a
Yeah.
positive way. Those are
Mhm,
all, ways of,
mhm. They
we
are.
were talking about earlier, Claire, how they get people that wanna help. Now, there's some psychopaths in there, but for the most part and they have it all worked out, step by step on how to find out those that want to help because they're gonna be the ones that are gonna take the most abuse, suffer the
Mhm,
longest, and stay in.
mhm,
If you're a narcissist, you'll go into Scientology and you'll say, "I can't get anything out of this." Unless you're like Keith Raniere, then you'll say, "I'm gonna steal Scientology and go make my
mhm,
own cult," but you're not
mhm,
gonna put up with the abuse. If you only care about yourself, you're not going to fall into Scientology. But if you wear your heart on your sleeve and you do want to help, beware because
mhm.
predators like Scientology can sniff that out and absolutely turn it against you.
I've
I
always
mean,
found that fascinating as to why they're with the Hollywood crowd so much because the Hollywood crowd, if you've been successful
mhm,
at the point where you're making outrageous amounts of money, so to speak, there is a little bit of guilt there, like why me and not somebody else kind of
mhm,
thing. And you feel like you got to give back. Like if I'm going to
mhm,
keep this shiny apple, I have to give a little
exactly.
piece of it away or they're going to come for it. You know what I mean? Like they're going to come for it because there's always that thing in human nature like that you there's some part of you that always thinks you don't deserve the thousands of
Yeah.
good things that happen, and they
Yeah.
use that against them. They're like, this is
Yes.
how you can be grateful for what you have. This is how you can give back and help change the world. You are now in a position of power and prestige that you can make a difference in the world with your voice, with your attitude, with your PR,
Mhm.
with your PR in Hollywood. But then
Yeah.
why do they have a double set of rules? In my opinion, maybe they don't, but in my opinion, when I looked in particular at the Masterson trial, it
Mhm.
seems that Danny Masterson was allowed to be a party boy. They all
Mhm.
knew what was going on. Massive reporting was done to
Well,
Scientologists.
only certain people in Scientology knew it was going on, not the they keep it under wraps and they
Mhm.
handle it with ethics
But
conditions.
they
So only a
knew.
few, but
What
the
what is that a double standard? Like, are they do that on purpose, you think?
well, they're celebrities and therefore they're called in Scientology what's called upstats. You
Mhm.
familiar with George Orwell's 1984?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, you know how they just have words where like,
Mhm.
very thought terminating cliches is what they call
Mhm.
them. Very simplistic words that take a huge range of human experience and nail it down to like one phrase. So there's upstat in Scientology, which means Danny is bringing in a lot of money. He promotes for the
Mhm.
church and he's a famous celebrity. And then there's
Mhm.
downstats where you're not famous and you're just a public member and you're taking your courses. So there's a huge separation at
Mhm.
all levels, depending on what your statistics are in life. And the whole goal in Scientology, by the way, is to be successful on all areas of your life
Mhm.
self, family, then going out wider to the group, wider to the planet. And then you go all the way up the bridge and you have to save the whole world, basically.
Mhm.
And then save it in next lifetimes and next lifetimes. So
Mhm.
you're trying to be successful on all the areas of your life. And the more successful you are, i.e., Danny brings in a lot of money and he's famous, and now he's having a little bit of problems with the girlfriends or whatever, but it doesn't matter because money's the most important thing in Scientology. So if you have a lot of that, you're upstat. So yeah, everything's different depending
Mhm.
on
Yeah,
your
it's like
status
they judge people differently because here they are saying,
completely.
like, yourself first and then your family, okay, and your family life. How could they say a troubled person like Danny Masterson? Because besides the trial, not even
Hmm.
putting that into it, There were fights on the street, there was
Mhm.
problems going on, there was drugs, there was drinking, there was, like, all this
Mhm.
speculation going on about Danny anyway. So how does the word, like, what the upstat, like, once you have that upstat term, none of that matters? Because here he is, he's supposed to be working on all these, and, people are reporting that, "Hey, yo, Danny, you could benefit for coming in and doing some of these classes," yet he never did. He
Yeah, he was
never
kind of a
did.
dilettante Scientologist.
He
Again, because he
got
was upstat,
cleared.
he didn't have to
He's
do too much. There's
Yeah.
Claire, I knew so many Scientologists like that, and you're bringing back so many memories because
I'm sorry. I
no,
hope
no,
it's
no,
not
no, that's a
uncomfortable.
good thing. It's
Okay.
totally fine.
Mhm.
I was
Because
just
the double standard is something that I could see a person like yourself, just like it's who actually immersed themselves into, well, I'm here, I'm going to learn about
Mhm.
it. And you did it. And you were part of it. No shame.
Yes.
You were part of it for so a while
Oh,
and you
I loved
believed
it.
in it
I
and you
absolutely
tried
believed in it.
to work that program the way it is. How
Yeah.
does a person like yourself, this is really a question I want to ask so many ex-Scientologists.
Mhm.
How does a person like yourself, who was in it and working it, okay, taking the classes, doing the work, you got up to OT3 from what I heard,
Yes, I
right?
did.
So you got pretty far up there because like the other
Mhm.
ones, like a lot of these other ones don't even exist, even though they're listed, they're not
I
written
know.
yet because like he didn't bother, he never thought anybody get there. But
Mhm.
when you get that far in it and you are at this point, honestly, and no shame here, no judgment at all, you're never going to get that from me. No shame, no judgment, just total honesty. You are immersed in it, you believe it, you're working it, you're doing it. How do you feel about Danny getting a free pass as an upstat, not doing the work? You can visibly see he could benefit and be a better person if he came in and just did an auditing. You just
Yes.
how do you, as a Scientologist, while you were there, tell me how you feel about it, and then tell me how you feel after you got out.
Sure, and I did look at I didn't hang around Danny. His mother was my acting manager for a few years. I think this would have been around between
Mhm.
2004 and 5-ish up to
Was there
2007.
anybody else from the hot, like, upstart status that you must have come in contact with? You don't have to use
Yeah, well, I
Danny.
hung around them all in my acting
Mhm,
class. Jordan,
mhm,
and Alana Masterson were in my acting class. Again, they were kinda they were dilettante Scientologists too and would, not show up very often and do scene work once in a while. The way I looked at it is I wanted to be like them. Like, they had careers, and I just figured they don't need to do too much Scientology because Danny's on the set all the time and probably doesn't have the time, and I did I and others would look down on Danny as being a dilettante, but he gets a free pass because as an actor, I want to have the career he has. I want to have the success he has. He must be doing something right. And he's a Scientologist. So I guess the cognitive dissonance didn't really, I wasn't really aware of it. But me though, once I'm into something, I throw myself 100% into it. I can't multitask. I can just do one thing at a
mhm.
time, but I stay on it. So a lot of people around me were not as hardcore as I was, but I just figured, I want to go up the bridge. Scientology works, and if other people don't want to, it must be because they're too busy or they already have careers.
Oh, mhm. So it's
But
kinda
yeah,
like
he was considered though, even amongst Scientologists, as kind of a dilettante. And most
mhm,
Scientology, I don't know, Claire. There's two, like I said, the acting class that I ran with. There's this whole bunch of second generation Scientologists. That means people that, are born into it or whatever, that don't do a lot of Scientology really, but they are hardcore Scientologists because
mhm,
that's what they're in and around. And then
right.
there's another group like me where you do take it super serious and you do try to move up the bridge and work your ass off. There really is two
Mhm,
different the more dilettante people had to do with the second generation kids, the spoiled brats, actors type.
mhm,
They don't, and then there's me that didn't have a foot in the door and I need to do everything I can to be the best Scientologist and try to break into Hollywood. That
mhm.
was my thinking.
Yeah, it's just kinda like there's, like, 2 sets of rules, like how far you have to do things and where you get the recognition. It's almost like
Mhm.
they get the recognition number 1, the family was born into it, he was born into it.
Mhm.
To it, from what other people are reporting. Now, this doesn't come from Masterson himself, so I don't know. Okay, and of course, Scientology hasn't weighed in on it, but it's been reported that he's never actually gone through any of the clearing process and the normal things that
Yeah, he's definitely not
even
clear. He's
even
not
at the
clear.
beginning Scientologists do, like when he is getting into relationships with women and asking them to become Scientologists that they're required to do.
Yeah,
But
it's
he
so
has never
yeah.
done it, okay?
Yes, you're
And
right.
it just makes it a little bit like double standard to me. Like I don't know. I think more people would question it. And when you look back now that you're out of it, I'm sure it's like, wow, like that sticks out like a sore thumb. Why
I
they
do
get to talk
understand
about
it
it like
though.
that?
It's one of I think no matter how much someone studies Scientology, you're never going to quite get it. You have to
Mhm,
live it to appreciate it.
mhm,
This is one of the I do understand Danny's whole thing about wanting to get people in. He was, convincing his girlfriends to get into it. Yet he doesn't do Scientology hardly at all. So how do you make sense of that? I
yeah,
just under I just understand it, why he
yeah,
would do that, because he is a Scientologist to his DNA. Just because he
mhm,
doesn't practice it doesn't mean that that isn't what his parents and his whole environment growing up was beating into him. He
mhm,
kind of reminds me of me a little bit. Not the fact that he's a sociopath, but the fact that my ethics were out. I was rebellious. It was always me, me, me that was the problem. So I didn't take to Scientology until I was really ready to kind of confront myself.
mhm,
And if he's out there, partying and being famous and has all his money and doing all the other activities that he got up to, it doesn't mean you still can't want to get other people in and be a hardcore
right,
Scientologist. He just might not have confronted himself yet. But
mhm,
so even though I wasn't, I'm telling you, it's just being in and around it. And his family is
right,
super hardcore with, multiple generations. So it doesn't
mhm.
matter whether you practice it or not at that level. You just are a Scientologist, and maybe you're just not a good one, you know?
Well, and basically, as far as Scientology is, looking at it from the outside, granted, I
Hmm.
don't know, I wasn't on the inside, but looking
Thank
from the
God.
outside, it's almost, thank you. He he actually gets the pass because yes, if you're bringing people in,
Yeah.
well, that's your contribution.
Upstat.
If you
Yep.
are bringing the money in and the recognition and the PR and getting people to talk about Scientology or come in, that is his contribution. And that
Definitely. Good
that
point.
just that is the way that they're not looking at him. Well, you got to do better about
Good
yourself or
point. That's
whatever.
exactly right.
They're like because they are an MLM. I'm sorry,
Yes,
they
but they're
are.
so
So what?
complicated that you don't even see that, or at
But
least
when
you
it
don't
comes,
see
well, I
anything.
do because
Oh, of
everything,
course, you're on the outside. Mm.
including what I just said, all comes
Mhm.
down to the money
Yep.
and the
And
contribution. Yeah.
and people can't understand it, and I gotta be honest with you, that's why I'm doing these videos. I learn more and more about the whole thing myself because I don't totally understand it. It seems impossible that this happened to
Mhm,
me looking at it now. But since I lived it and I've spent years breaking it down in my head to ask myself, how did this happen?
mhm,
We have very sophisticated psychological manipulation and mind control techniques that are being used against us from
mhm.
the second we walk into that door and fill out their stupid personality test. So I give myself a break on that element. But
Of
there's
course.
another part of me that goes, I understand what you guys see. The thing that I hear the most, Claire, is from the outside looking in. He's a science fiction writer. These guys are idiots. I would never fall for that. I don't
I would
get it.
never
Only a
I would
moron would fall
never,
for Scientology.
ever, ever call you guys idiots at all because
I'm not saying you
no,
necessarily,
no, no. No,
and I
I'm saying
understand
I'm
the
I'm
people that I
talking to
understand
the
people that
general
say that.
public right
Yeah.
now. I'm gonna try to educate YouTube here a little bit.
Mhm.
Just from my perspective,
Go for it.
to be able to digest that book and think on a higher plane, you're
Mhm.
actually the people that are reading that book and going, yes, we're all looking for something, all of us. But we're
Mhm.
not talking about sad, pathetic people here. We're talking about very critical thinking people here who think they're finding a key to why they are still so dissatisfied no matter what information they have about the world or what they try to do good. That is the hick there with Dianetics. These are not people that are gullible. Okay, I would never say that you guys that you're gullible at all. Do they prey on the weak? They would take the most intelligent person and be able to turn them if you go right for that one thing that
Yeah, could
everybody
I just
has.
take something up that somebody said here real quick? It says,
Mhm.
"My Beavers unit says it feels like you still haven't separated yourself
Oh, we
just from
had. Oh,
listening." And then he
well, how
says right
tell
here,
them how long. Tell them how long you've been out.
wait, this is I've been out for about I got out in January 2008. This is a really good point this guy brought up that I just wanted to say something here
Mhm.
real quick. My
That's my
Beavers
friend
unit says, I
Beaver.
would never
Mm.
fall for a cult because if you fall for something, you fall for anything. Somebody that thinks that they can't fall for a cult, those are the
You'll be the
people that they look
target. They're
for.
the
Yeah,
ones
that's a
because
good
they're gonna
and
convince you. right,
Yeah,
because we
people that
think we're
think they're
smart.
invincible
Mhm,
are the number one people. Just like me, I
mhm.
knew I was invincible and I
Yeah,
resisted
she
it from the
yeah,
yeah.
she's a woman, so she's trying to tell you, but
And I'm not
it's
trying to
yeah,
be mean, Beavers Unit.
it's
I'm just
not.
saying that they
Mhm,
really do if you think you can't fall for a cult, I'm not saying you will
yeah.
fall for one. I'm just saying that
Some
right
of
that
Yeah, some of the
leaves
most
your guard
intelligent
open.
people that I've spoken to in the last, several years were ex-cult members of all different kind of cults,
Why
and
do you
it is
think
such
that
a
is,
problem.
Claire? Why do not just Scientology, but
Mhm.
Children of God and all the cults that I've looked at, they seem to not all of them, but they're not dumbasses, and even
I think
Scientology has captured,
there's
what do
2
you think that
kinds.
is?
I think there's 2. I don't think there's a single answer to that question, but the 2 types of people that I see are the ones that they get through desperation, where they're at the lowest point in their life and they just need something. Then there's
Mhm,
those that although they have accomplishment, although they're on the right path, although everything's going their way, something seems missing. These are intelligent people,
mhm,
degrees, 4 years, 6 year, 8 look at all of the level of people in Scientology with massive degrees, business degrees, all of this stuff. Successful
mhm,
people, millionaires who made their money. Okay, people that are retired now, if you look at who is donating, they are in the 50 to 60. They've lived their life. They don't have to work anymore. They're looking for a place to put their money. They're looking for something to feel like they're doing the right thing, like they're going forward to get some
mhm.
satisfaction out of life. Um, I really think it's never about intelligence. It's about human need. It's about
Mhm.
belonging to something and thinking you're doing greater good, like you said. The
Yeah.
greater good, even for me, is a huge hook. I speak
Oh, and
on
I
it all the
hate that
time.
phrase nowadays
I
too, because
know.
it's
They're
such
they're
a
they're making
yeah.
it such a woke phrase. I'm almost nauseous
Yes.
talking saying it, but I don't
Yes.
have a better word. Somebody come up with better words
Mhm.
for me and save me because like I can't think of one because I am back to
Yeah.
the JFK generation back there. Those are my parents who were like,
Mm.
what can you do good for your country? Not what your
Right.
country does for you. All of that.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
That is
right.
when being a police officer, being a fireman, being a
Yes.
volunteer, ambulance driver, whatever. These were all exceptionally proud things to do. We celebrated you. That was great. It was like a shiny star for you, and
Mhm.
some of that has all been taken away in the world these days. And that's the thing we're all looking for, that we all contributing to the greater society and the world in whole, beyond
Yeah.
our little walls, okay?
Yes.
Because actually, none of the people that are me, or unintelligent are actually in Scientology. They're not. Selfish, uneducated people are not really in there. That's not what they're looking for.
That's a bold statement, and you're gonna offend a lot of people by saying that, I think, but I
I
agree
offend
with you on
people
that.
regularly. I'm not really worried
I
about
agree with you on
that.
that. Not to feel better about myself, Claire, but I
No,
know
but
that I'm not stupid,
I
and
just don't I don't and I'm not going in Beaver or anybody. Everybody's entitled to Beaver knows.
Mhm.
Beaver and I have a lot of difference in opinions all the time. And we welcome them with each other because we respect each other as
Mhm.
individuals, as women who deal with a lot of pressure anyway. We feel that both have the right to say whatever we want to say. So like she can say what she wants in the chat, you can address it, and we have a conversation about it. We're not calling anybody names. We're not, we don't do that, but
Mhm.
she's got a point. Like that is a very common perception that people feel that if you got involved with a cult, there's something wrong with you. Like, how did you let that happen? You
Mhm.
don't let it happen. You don't let it
Yeah,
happen.
nobody joins a cult. You get
Nobody
manipulated.
walked into
You know how I
Scientology and
describe
said,
it? You know how
take
I
me, I'm
describe it?
yours.
It's just like being in an abusive relationship with a narcissist. So let's
Exactly.
say somebody's not in a
Exactly.
cult, but they've been in people that have been come out of an abusive relationship with a narcissist will know exactly what it's like to be in
Hmm.
something like Scientology. It's the same
Hmm.
thing. So was that person shitty that got captured by the narcissist? No, they were probably
Right.
loving,
Or
they
you
were
could, yeah.
probably empathic, they were probably
Hmm.
intelligent. A narcissist is not going to be able to capture another narcissist. They look for people that have
Right.
vulnerabilities, that wear their heart on their sleeve. I'm
I
just
just care.
completely generalizing, by the way.
Right.
But they're not going to capture assholes or people that are selfish because it won't
Mhm.
work.
And we need to actually use generalizations to fight generalizations. You can't like,
Right.
yeah, right.
Good
So
point.
that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's quite appropriate to speak that way on it because it is a generalization. And it's just
Yeah.
that um I do understand why they feel that way, because when you look at it after, if you've not been in it, it's all like it seems obvious to all of us. But I assure you, nobody walks into that Scientology building saying, "Take me, I'm yours." Like nobody does. Okay, it's a process. It happens. They're dangling
Yeah,
you
plus I was
carrots.
a as somebody pointed out earlier, I was a freaking kid. I didn't
You
have the
were, you
psychological
were.
defenses.
Hmm.
I didn't have the knowledge to be able to defend against walking into
Hmm.
a sophisticated mind control machine like
Hmm.
Scientology week
Hmm.
after week, month after month. So I had no idea what I was stepping
Yep.
into. I
Yep.
definitely would not have fallen for Scientology if I didn't grow up in an abusive, psychologically
Exactly.
abusive. My parents were not physically abusive from the outside looking in. And I don't blame my parents either, just to get this across, but I do recognize they're manipulative people before Scientology.
Hmm.
So if I didn't have that, they have really had to work on me, Claire, and I had to hit my breaking point.
Right.
But I read Dianetics and it's just a piece of trash. There's no way in hell I
Hmm.
would have
Yep.
grown up in a normal family, come across Dianetics, and then taken to it. I'd have the exact same response that everybody else does. Hell no,
Hmm.
I wouldn't fall for that. And I wouldn't have. It was just for me, man. It's like any kid, let's say they grew up in an Orthodox Christian family or they have whatever
Hmm.
religion they have pushed on them, that's going to be their reality unless they either. So what was I going to do? I would rebel against my parents and tell them to go fuck themselves. But
Hmm.
then, it was I didn't want to be punished, and I look up to my
Right.
parents. So it's a double bind. I'm either gonna,
Hmm.
what's ironic, Claire, even as this was happening as a kid, I could like almost see my future where I knew at some point I was gonna have to do what I didn't want to do, and that was break away
Hmm.
from my parents because the option they were giving me, it was almost predestined. It was like I'm either gonna have to go along with this, suppress my true self to a large degree and do what my parents say in order to fit into this family. And again, anybody that grows up with a narcissistic mother or father will know this. It's like walking on eggshells. You
Hmm.
want their love and you want to conform to them. The alternative is if you rebel, you immediately get the hammer. So you learn how to walk on eggshells. My emotional responses were really fine tuned because I had to clue into my mother and father's emotional feelings to
Hmm.
match them, to dodge them, you get real sensitive on how
Right.
to survive. So
Hmm.
just, I haven't spoken to my family for, I don't know, a decade. I haven't seen them forever. And we've only emailed here and there once in a while. But breaking away from Scientology was step one. Not having a family to go back to made it doubly challenging. But even as a kid, I was like, I am going to have to do something that I'm not going to want to do, that I think is going to kill me in future life. But I'm going to have to break away from these people. Otherwise, either that or I'm going to let my goals and my ambitions. I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to do all this artistic stuff, which was like a complete opposite of my parents' desire for me. So, I was when I actually did wake up, it was like I just knew this was going to happen because
Hmm.
there was too much of a desire for self-expression inside of me
Hmm.
that was constantly overriding and making it difficult for me to conform to Scientology and my parents' view all along. I was even
Hmm.
rebellious in Scientology. I had a guy. Once I took to it, I was hardcore and I believed everything. I tried to keep my ethics in. I did everything exactly right. But I was also, there was something in the back of my mind where I didn't even fit in Scientology. And I had a best friend who since passed away. Um, this always makes me sad because he was pulling away from Scientology too, and he kind of lost his mind, and he had a whole bright career ahead of him and everything. But anyways, he was the only one in Scientology that I could really relate to, and we were kind of the rebels in Scientology. And then the whole Masterson clique and all the other B and C level actors that were in my acting class, for example, they were all different. They were, I don't know, they really did drink the Kool-Aid and they were, even like in normal society, I would be what's called like a freak or,
Hmm.
just want to go my own way and all that. So it's really ironic that the last thing I would do, Claire, is ever join a group or a cult. I don't like groups at all. I don't like
Hmm.
any of that stuff. So when I
Yeah.
found out that I was in a cult, it was like the most mind-bending thing because even in Scientology, I was rebelling and the rebelling was correct, but I didn't know it. I thought it was
Right.
me. So every time I'd have an inclination to leave my family and or the cult, I would always think it's me. My parents know better and Scientology and L.
Right.
Ron Hubbard know better. So I doubt myself and get pulled back into them. So in order to get out, I had to build up my own self-confidence, which was happening naturally in acting and just being away from Scientology for a while. And so the more I build up my self-confidence and my own drive to what I want to do in life, that was what was going to be what was eventually going to get me out. So I had
Right.
like a breaking point where I was starting to make it in acting. I was starting to build up self-confidence through my acting class, acting out my emotions, getting in. I was having kind of a more of a not spiritual experience, but like I was getting to know myself through acting more than I was in Scientology because it was an
Mhm.
environment where I could truly express myself. So those two were coming to a head. The more I would build up my self confidence and get in touch with my inner self, the more that was clashing and clashing and clashing with Scientology to where it finally hit a breaking point in my
Mhm.
early 30s, which is when I extracted myself. I also had a miracle happen, Claire. Like I didn't have the knowledge to be able to get out of it, but Steve
Yeah.
Hassan's book called
Did
Combating
really?
Cult Mind Control was dropped off on my doorstep. That's what got me out.
Is that what got you out? Because we were gonna
Yeah.
circle back to that. I was
Sorry to
wondering
jump
because
ahead, but there's the
no,
whole
no,
yeah.
that's no, like, we're already past an hour. Are you comfortable? You wanna stay a little bit longer? Because this is
Oh,
good.
sure. I'm not in
Yeah.
any hurry at all. It's all up to
Oh,
you.
no, this conversation is like, it's so open and refreshing, Doug. I have to say that your
Oh, thanks.
style
You
on
too,
it
Claire.
and informative at the same time because the detail that you have. But
Called The
tell
Black Sheep, by
yeah,
the way. Yes,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
Beaver
That
Shit. The Black Sheep.
exactly,
Exactly. I was
exactly.
the
Oh,
black sheep and my sister was the golden child. So I was always
mhm.
being compared to, you know how that works, Claire, right?
Oh,
There's
I
one
do.
person that
Mhm,
susses what's going on in the family, and that's the one you got to shut the hell
mhm,
up. And then there was
mhm,
my sister who was praised and everything, which is a manipulation tactic in itself, too. And that's the golden
mhm.
child. My sister
Yeah.
got it way worse than I did, even though she never totally fell into Scientology. Because thank God I was the rebel and the black sheep, because that was what was
Mhm.
going to save me later on in
And
life.
it sounds like your parents were using it as a way to keep you in control too, like, to
Oh,
take some of
they
the work
need to
off
have
themselves. "Hey, go
they
talk to those
need to
people over there."
control me and my sister more
Yeah,
than anything else. That was,
yeah.
and it would be it was a total subconscious blind spot on their part. They don't know that they're doing that. They can't be any
Mhm.
other way, but they
Right.
haven't confronted their own shadow or whatever the hell you want to call it. What is it? The sins of the father are visited on the son or something. It's just like everything they didn't handle got pushed onto me. So rather than
Mhm,
them having to really look at themselves, they are, especially my mother and my father, they're just super controlling. This is why I feel bad for my sister and that she doesn't have the fortitude, I don't think, to break away because of being, so manipulated. But because I was the black sheep, there was always a part of me that wouldn't go along with it. And that saved my ass, and that's a good thing. That's a good quality, which I
mhm,
learned, which my parents, because they were so manipulative, whenever I'd have my own thoughts or ideas or try to break away, I would just get the hammer. And so it kept making me think it's my
mhm.
fault. And my
Right.
self-esteem was so low. They beat me down so badly that
That
it
made you
took
a perfect candidate actually because
yeah.
you're looking for the approval.
Exactly. So once they beat me down, I mean, there's Scientology, which was my real second family waiting there to pick me up. I got closer to Scientology and they became like a substitute for my family. This is how cults work. How many
Mhm.
people go into cults, Claire, that didn't have a good upbringing and then they find their
They don't.
true family in the
They're
cult?
looking to
Yeah,
belong, they're looking like I said,
absolutely.
it's a need that we all have, it doesn't make us weaker, we all have it, a need to
Hmm.
belong, a need for acceptance, a need just for someone I mean, everybody likes that feeling. No I mean, no one's gonna deny that a good pat on the back or a pat on the head or, "Hey, you are amazing at that. You did
Hmm.
good. You belong here. You're like us." Like,
Exactly. It's so
even friendship
disgusting.
circles, just a couple of people in your life, whatever, that feels good,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
imagine if you have like a whole organization that wants to give it to you. It's quite enticing. It doesn't, it doesn't speak to me. And I'm being quite honest here. It doesn't speak to me of
Hmm.
weakness or it doesn't speak to me of lack of any type of intelligence. It actually the people that end up in cults and stuff are always looking at themselves and it takes quite a bit of courage and intelligence for people to actually look inwards at themselves as to why they do things and what they do.
Hmm.
So that is why, wrong or right, my belief is that some of the most intelligent people end up in cults
And dumb
because
people and psychopaths too, we are
because
just
they're willing
generalizing, but
to
yeah.
learn and accept that there could be a better way, that they don't know everything, that they're
Yeah.
going for it, that they're more open for new information and different ways of things and accepting of or even an outside culture that they are totally unaware of, just to
Mhm.
learn about it, and they will immerse themselves in it. So that's where I'm coming from with it.
And like Beaver says again here, Doug, you were love bombed. Exactly. Anybody in an abusive
Mhm.
relationship knows the honeymoon phase and what it feels like to be swept off your feet and how amazing that is, especially when you
Mhm.
feel like you don't belong, you're not getting the love from your family.
Mhm.
So I was just ripe for anybody to come along. This was gonna happen to me irregardless, Claire. So I mean, what am I
Yeah.
gonna do? I have an open wound because of growing up in this family. So it's
And I
gonna be
do.
picked
And
up
you know
on. I'm
what?
gonna fall
It
into it. I'm
is.
gonna have to learn this. I'm gonna have to learn
Yeah.
this life lesson, build
Just
up
know
myself, and
just know that when people are speaking like that, I mean, if you don't mind, I don't want to speak on how it is for you because
mhm.
I'm not you. And I mean this from like a really good place. Just keep in mind
Mhm.
that when they are speaking to you about that, they're not speaking to you. They're speaking to Scientology. That's all you need to remember
What
to get through it.
specifically, Claire? What do you mean?
When they're saying things like when they say things like, well, you have to be unintelligent to do that or whatever, just
Right.
keep in mind that's not you they're talking on. They are most people are coming at this as with a thing about Scientology, not about you as a person at
And by
all.
the way, I do understand why they say that. I would say the same damn
Mhm.
thing if this didn't happen
Right.
to me. This is
Yeah. And
why
it
I could
yeah.
never look down on somebody or feel superior than anybody, because
Mhm.
once you go through something like this,
Mhm.
you can put your it's very easy for me to put myself into other people that are being abused situations and not judge them and know very intimately what
Mhm.
they might be actually going
Yeah,
through.
exactly. Because they're like, they're just looking at it that big picture of Scientology, which is a very negative picture,
And it looks
so to
really
speak.
stupid from
Mhm.
the outside looking in. I
And it
do
does.
totally
But
understand.
but
Like I
just
said, if I
know.
didn't fall for this, I would say it's just
Mhm.
impossible because it looks so stupid. It
Yeah,
really is dumb. When you
right.
look
But those kind of comments are not even directed to you as a person. They are directed to Scient you just keep that in mind. They're
right.
talking about Scientology, not me. And
Well,
maybe
sometimes
that'll help,
often they
you
say
know.
that it's me, but I don't really give a crap what anybody says, positive or negative. I get, as long I
Mhm.
like I said, I had to kind of build up my own self-confidence in order to break away from this thing. So
Mhm.
very little actually gets to me, even flattery or anything.
So tell me, you actually you were in Hollywood when you got away,
Mhm.
right? Like this is when
Mhm.
you moved your because Doug wasn't is an actor. He's done quite a few. I saw a whole bunch of movies there. I can't name them all off
Yeah,
the
I
top of my
was,
head,
but it
but
destroyed my career too. But, I'll just give you the real quick rundown, Claire.
mhm, sure.
From 9 to about 19, I resisted. I hit a vulnerable point, which is too long to get into, and I took to Scientology around 19. And then 19 up until my early 30s, I was, as I describe, a 100% Kool-Aid drinking Manchurian candidate Scientologist. I was into this shit and nothing was going to peel me away from it. I would look at people that left Scientology, especially as they would get up higher on the bridge, as how could you possibly leave this once you get a taste of it? So, up until my early 30s, I was massively into it. And there was no way I was going to get out unless this little miracle happened. And that was
Mhm,
that book, Combating Cult Mind Control by Steve Hassan, which I tell everybody to get because it's a really basic book on how to start understanding
mhm,
little complex psychological tools like hypnotism. What the hell's that? It's not just a watch being swung in front of your face. How do they love bomb you? All the different techniques that
right.
cults use are in that book. So I just so there was a concerned friend from my acting class who knew Scientology was a cult, and he dropped this a bunch of books off on my doorstep, and my initial reaction was to immediately go down to the church and report him. Anybody that
Mhm.
says anything negative about Scientology, now he's not
Like,
a
look,
Scientologist.
they're trying to
Exactly.
convert me. They're trying to steal me from you. Like,
Exactly.
look. Yeah. Mhm.
And he
Wow.
wasn't a Scientologist, but you still write up your non-Scientology friends to the church. You report
Mhm.
on anybody that says anything negative about Scientology. So because I was too tired that day, and I just like, I'm gonna go write him up in the morning. I know it sounds stupid, Claire, but it's a snitching culture. It's Orwell's
Hey,
1984, and
things
we are
happen for a
programmed to
reason.
do
That
this.
doesn't sound stupid. That sounds like a moment.
It's weird. I mean, this moment was going to change my entire path from here on out, and
Wow.
not. I mean, for the better because I got away, but for the worse because it almost killed me. So it's like it's that double-edged sword that I knew was going to
Mhm.
happen even as a kid. I'm like, this is going to hurt. I'm either going to have to break away and risk my life, so to speak, or I'm going to have to just conform to Scientology, suppress my true self, and just do what my freaking parents and L. Ron Hubbard say for the rest of my
There's,
life.
like, no choice there. Like, that's
There
horrible.
isn't, and this is what these kids
Horrible.
are being born into, man. That's why we gotta, do
Mm.
something about Scientology's tax exempt status or whatever. Because as long as it exists there, like I'm going to be 50 or I'm how old am I? What are we in? I don't even remember how old. I'm about 50, I think. So my life is mostly done, but I am invested in trying to make sure that other people don't fall into this.
Right.
As long as that fucking thing exists, Claire, there's going to be kids that have no chance, just like me, and they might have a lot to offer this world, but their life's going to be taken from them for no fault of their own, simply
Exactly.
because the governments won't do anything about a clearly criminal mafia organization. There
Mhm.
needs to be no more evidence brought forward about how bad these fuckers are, and yet we allow this to happen in our world. I mean, I'm super
Mhm.
sensitive on this because it drives me nuts when it comes to the kids. I don't
Mhm.
have kids probably for this very reason because I don't want to fuck them up like my parents did. But I do give a shit about like,
About them
it
having
has
the opportunity that they
having the
need to know more
opportunity.
than just that,
Exactly.
right? Mhm.
Exactly. And it just breaks my heart to see these
Mhm.
kids that grow up in this stuff knowing what they're going to have to go through, and they're going to have to
Mhm.
rebel at some point or they're screwed. And
Mhm.
they're going to lose their family if they go against it too.
And
So
that's
they're
a
going to
problem with all cults that are, they're having
Mhm.
children, they're born into it, and they don't see anything but that life, so they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't have the opportunity to figure out what they actually believe or don't
And
believe.
it's
It's just all
scary,
around them.
Claire. It's
Mhm.
scary to find out what you believe and to step off that comfort zone. I
Mhm.
had to learn a lot of things that
But this
terrify me because
yeah,
I didn't
this
get that life experience. They bubbled me in from it. They blocked me off.
Mhm.
Scientology took me into such a small perception of reality and my world in general that once I got out, it was like an incredible freedom that scared the shit out of me. It's like coming out of
Yeah,
jail
like,
in
what
your
do you do?
mind.
You don't know. You don't
I
know
didn't
how
know
it's yeah.
anything, and I had to
Mhm.
just to get up to the normal human perception of everything. Like, I skipped so many experiences, so much knowledge that I should have had because I was in Scientology and just studying that, that when I got out into the wider world, no family or anything, it was really bizarre because you have phobias installed too, Claire, not to trust the outside world, that all
Mhm.
you people are evil. So, and then
Mhm.
psychiatrist is bad, psychology, never go see a psychologist. Like all these phobias, like thousands of them in my brain, that day by
Man,
day, just by life experience, I'm having to trigger them and get over them. And it was like every day was freaking traumatizing for a decade simply because I was so isolated from normal human experience. And now when I'm on my own with my dick in my hand, it was like everything was terrifying.
it is.
But yeah.
It is, and that's what makes them the ultimate, because
Mhm,
even
mhm.
in all of their teachings, they are already pre-programmed you for when you try to get out, and it all
Exactly,
works
and all the
against you.
cults do that, so
And
that's
it
why you
all
stay
works
in, and
against you, and that's why you stay in, because it's
exactly right.
actually so mind altering to actually get out. You've got to actually
Exactly.
doubt everything you ever thought, everything you ever
Yes,
did,
and it feels
and
unnatural. That's an unnatural thing to do because 'cause you're
right.
fighting your programming. Yeah,
And they're also built in all the fears of the only things that
exactly.
are gonna help you, the therapist, the
Yes.
psychologist, trusting other people to just
Yep.
help you navigate something, asking for help, accepting help, just the standard things that people that are
Thank
needing
you,
some
Beaver.
kind of assistance, they actually program you not to accept all of that, like, in their favor, like,
Exactly.
try to get you back in.
And by the way,
We're all
Beaver
21, right, I know,
Beaver
she
said,
said
"Better your dick in your hand than someone else's dick in your hand." Amen to
This
that.
is
Well
true.
said.
Amen. Very well. She, like, for all your roughness, Beaver, you do often find just the right thing to say. I
Oh,
think
that's
you're a lot of
perfect.
it.
That's so
But yeah,
funny.
yeah. But she also said we're all 21, which I'm grateful for that. I want to
Oh,
be
yeah, did I say 50? I meant 21.
yeah, 21. You're exact
Yeah.
because you left at 33. You say you've been out 12.
Mhm,
Well, a couple of years ago when you started your little series, the one where
mhm,
you did with the short videos that led to the longer videos,
mhm.
um, that was 2 years ago. And I recommend you guys, if you want to know more about his process getting out, go watch those. They're very easy to take. He's got a great style. It's going to be just like a one-on-one with you. I hear from what you said there that you started a second series. Yeah.
Well, can I just this is a perfect opportunity because I can't do a video about what the series is about. I just keep going and
Mhm.
then people ask what the hell's
Go
the point?
ahead, please.
Okay, so what it's designed to do is no Scientologist is gonna, come on my channel because of the programming and the phobias. But when they get out, I wanted to create a place where they'd have a one-stop shop complete with a series that I just tell my story, like what happened. Look, here's how it can happen. Here's my story. And then I also break down the mind control and the sophisticated manipulation techniques of Scientology. So my goal is, and we're towards the end of season 2. The next season is called season 3, obviously. That's the
Okay. Mhm.
deprogramming and escape. In other words, I'm telling my story through 3 seasons in the hopes that when someone else gets out, they can just sit down, relax, and go through, just listen to my story and be able to relate to it so they can deprogram. It's supposed to be
Mhm.
a deprogramming channel because when we come out, we need to know what the hell happened to us. What's L. Ron
Mhm.
Hubbard's background? What about the black magic shit? There's so much involved that we don't know about that we need to know about in order to get this man's voice out of our head. So that's
Mhm.
what the series is about, inviting people to just, as I say,
Just
have a
watch it.
smoke and a
Yeah.
cigarette and just fucking let's talk. And
And so
hopefully,
the more
come out the other
more
end.
more people who aren't Scientologists who know about that being out there and where to get it is going to benefit because actually Scientologists aren't going to know it's there. They're not going to know to go.
Yeah.
But that's so commendable of you because that is going to be helpful. Because I was going to ask you, like, what's the best thing to do for people coming out, and basically it's relate to them in how difficult it is, and that where they've been, and
And to get educated,
yeah.
information is absolutely key. That's the thing
Mhm.
that saved me from being. As soon as I read Steve Hassan's book, you know what happens to a lot of us, Claire, is we come out and we go the methadone route, which means we become like indie Scientologists. We still believe
Mhm.
in the technology. It was just David Miscavige's fault. There's a million different layers coming out. And by the way, I have a video on my channel called The 10 Steps Out of Scientology that
Mhm.
show, I didn't come up with that. This brilliant ex-Scientologist named Arnie Lerma did. And it
Mhm.
just shows you all the different levels about how far you have to go to get out from his opinion. And I think it's pretty accurate.
Mhm.
So, also that's just, you're right. It's like it started out as a specialty for Scientology, but in order for me to get out, I had to learn about narcissists and sociopaths. So I have
Mhm.
this psychopath that I interview, to break that down. And the channel covers a bunch of different subjects, trying to hit it from a million different angles because it's all about information and learning, in my opinion, about as much as you can about the tools, the psychological manipulation tools used against you, learning about narcissists, learning about abusive relationships. There's a whole bunch of information that goes into, capturing us and then how to get the fuck out and undo all of that. So that it's not just about Scientology. Hope if you come out of the Jehovah's Witnesses and you were to listen to those videos, I
Mhm.
guarantee you they'd be able to relate because it's all the same pattern. Whether it's a
Right.
one-on-one cult family dynamic, or I'm sorry, you can be in a relationship, in a
Mhm.
one-on-one. You can have a family that's a cult, or you can have something where it's like Scientology, where it's like you versus 100 narcissists or whatever.
Mhm.
So anyways, that's what the channel's about.
That's gonna be really, really great. I recommend that they see that one also. I think that's gonna do a lot of good, and I hope that your channel continues to grow in the numbers
Thanks,
so we
and you
can
too,
spread
Claire.
that
I
out
really
there.
appreciate what you're
Uh,
doing too, man.
oh,
We're all
oh,
we're
thank you.
all like educating and
Hey, I'm just a bear with a microphone. No, well, actually, a woman in cat ears that calls herself Bear with a microphone who
with
just
one
likes to
hell of a
talk.
cool background, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
but thank you. That would be counter
and
talk. He said
bitchin'
he is cool.
intro now too. I hope that
Yeah.
that intro runs after this video
It will.
gets
There's an
posted. Oh,
outro. It has
cool.
a little bit different
Oh,
music. It'll
nice,
it'll it'll bring you down nice, like and like drop you off.
nice.
But
Are you trying to hypnotice us, Claire? Are you trying to
yes,
put us in a
apparently
suggestible state? Yeah.
it's the cult of Otter Bear over here. No, I think I dress. I do have a pretty snarky sense of humor, but no, I couldn't be a cult leader. I don't want that kind of responsibility.
Yeah,
Like,
me
no,
neither, right? I
I,
mean, what a
I just
waste of a life. Can you
it
imagine
sounds like
Hubbard
I don't
waking
want
up
I want
every
everybody to
day?
do their own thing and be
Me
who they
too.
are. Like this I'm happiest when everybody is just comfortable around me being whoever they are, however that is. Like that's cool to me, but I couldn't be. So it's just the cult of nothing. It's the cult of nothingness
Yeah, I
because
think
I
most people
couldn't.
would be like that too, but then we have this
Mhm,
like 5% or whatever the hell the percentage would be of these predators that like try to sniff out good-hearted people like
it
you.
is, and like you said before, like, first, I wanna go back to how you got out. So
Mhm.
you didn't turn him in, and then you read the book before
Yeah,
because you
so
were tired? Yeah?
it's so amazing, Claire, because it's like my everything hinged on that. Because I would probably still be in Scientology. I don't see how the hell I would have gotten out. Because, like I said, I was lacking the information. So yeah, so the reason I didn't go the methadone route, sorry for getting off track, but a lot of people become indie Scientologists,
Mhm.
and then they takes them a long time to go through the peeling of the onions process, right? But because in that book he was talking about the Moonies, which Steve himself, was an ex-Moonie.
Mhm.
This is the
Yep.
author of the book, and he was just able to break down. He was describing the Moonies, and it was just like he was describing Scientology. So I quickly recognized Scientology wasn't special. I wasn't tricked in a special way. This is what happens in these other groups too. And he was describing all these other groups, abusive relationships, etc. So right off the
Mhm.
bat, I got the right information where I'm like, I'm never going back to Scientology. I don't believe in Hubbard. I can tell that he lied, blah, blah, blah. The next
Mhm.
day, after shaking at the freaking computer for like 2 hours, I mean, I'm
I can
serious. I was
imagine.
shaking
The
because I'm going to
just
go
the
online now and I'm going to finally go to
Oh,
videos like my channel. I'm going to finally look
you're
because
gonna go look? Oh, see,
yes, what
but
was
you
on my
can't do that in Scientology, Doug. You
if only
can't go
people
look.
realize how
Yeah.
frightening it really is. Because
Oh.
Claire, if I'm wrong, check this out. So I knew that I was con, right? But still, all the phobias, all the programming is still in there. I'm just on day one of waking up. Like it was a totally, totally surreal experience. I can't even describe what it is. Do you know how I describe it? Imagine everything you've ever believed in stored deeply in your subconscious, like a hard drive on a computer. Imagine that all of that. Now I'm in my 30s. I'm an adult. Imagine all that gets deleted and you're left in a void and you have no idea what to think. What's your
Mhm.
favorite color? What are your desires? Like it was all Scientology programming that was I was a Scientologist. I didn't even know who me was. So I was about to go on like a decades long journey of finding that out. And just every moment of every day was terrifying because I didn't have a support network. And also I needed to do this on my own too, because I was leaning on psychologists for a while and I was leaning on other people. And I desperately wanted to cling to somebody to help me. But there was a part of me that says, you know what? Scientology always tells you think for yourself while programming you into how to think like Hubbard. And
Mhm.
so you don't think for yourself at all. But I legitimately needed to activate my brain and make it think for itself. So rather than cling to anybody or whatever, I'm like, I need to do auto psychotherapy. I need to work this out for myself. It'll give me the confidence I've never thought for myself before. And I need to get in touch with myself, not in any sexual way, mind you, to find out who the fuck I am. Like, what do I like? Rather than everything that was foisted on me. So that was a decades long process, beginning with going on the internet and shaking as to whether or not I should type in negative Scientology material because I knew it was a con, but I still have the phobias and everything going on. If I'm wrong about this, I just screwed myself with Scientology because I was programmed to go down there and tell them, look, I
Mhm.
went on the internet and I looked at some N theta. That's their word for negative
Oh.
Scientology stuff. In other words, I would have had a long ethics program, a bunch of money that I have to pay for
Mhm.
auditing to fix why I went online. If I'm wrong, I'm
Mhm.
screwed.
Right.
So I'm sitting there debating for 2 hours and shaking whether or not to type in OT4, which is my next step. I figured if I can see what this next step is, going back, Claire, I got to
Mhm.
OT3, which to your listeners is the
Right.
Xenu story. Only 5% of the Scientologists make it up to these confidential levels. And it took forever to get up there. So I'm like, I was going to pay for my next level called OT4. And I'm like, if I can just see if this next level's bullshit or not, because it was all posted online, but you would never look.
Mhm.
I was like, I'll know if it's bullshit or not if I can see OT4. So after debating for 2 hours, I finally went on to Operation Clambait, and I freaking looked at all the OT levels. I was out in 5 minutes later because it confirmed that it was in fact bullshit Scientology. I know this is going to sound ridiculous to your listeners, but remember, I'm in the Scientology world, and this is all I can
Mhm.
think with. So they promise you at the very end of OT3 that you have no more alien souls on you. I'm not going to get into the whole story. You can watch
Right.
South Park and there's
Mhm.
videos, but it's too long to
Right.
explain. But you're getting rid of alien souls off of your body. Of course, you're not. It's
Mhm.
all in your imagination, but you believe it. So you feel like it's happening. So they promise you at the end of that, you have no more. They're called body thetans or BTs for short. So you're
Mhm.
told you have no more body thetans. You've handled them all on OT3. Now there's going to be something brand new on OT4. Come to find out after going on to Operation Clambait that from OT4 all the way up to OT7, it's just more and more body thetans. So I'm like, oh my God, it's a con. There's nothing else to learn. I was promised, there'll be something new on the next level. It's just all the same bullshit. And I knew body thetans weren't real at that point. So off I went, and I had a heart attack because I knew that I was going to try to pass this information over to my parents. I'm going to have to try to break their programming because obviously I want to keep my family. I'm not just going to not save them. So I spent years trying to save my sociopathic, narcissistic parents who can't be saved anyways because they lack a conscience. So it took me forever walking on eggshells with my parents, trying to pass information over onto them, doing what they say, but then having to compromise with, I don't want to do what you say because I'm breaking away from Scientology. So there's a long battle with
Mhm.
them
Right.
before I finally came across the subject of psychopathy and narcissism. Studied that, realized there's no saving my parents. I'm to save myself. So that was a decades long process. I'd say maybe the last 2 years or so, I've actually been happy. And even though I'm speaking out about Scientology, I don't feel intimidated, scared. I've never felt like actual joy in my life, to be honest with you, because such was the programming. So it's just been a trip the last couple years speaking out, getting massive healing, lots of positive feedback. People say it is helping them, which is amazing because that's what I wanted to get into for Scientology for to help people. It's just such a bizarre feeling to not have to do a damn thing my parents or Scientology say ever again. I really do and can think for myself. And it's really weird to just feel happy. I know that that sounds weird to people because they're used to being happy, but I've had this subconscious sadness going on inside of me my entire life. And only when I got out and did all the crying and the tears of healing and good tears, getting my emotions and feelings back. Only in the last couple of years have I ever actually known what freaking happiness feels like. And
Wow.
I almost can't. I almost feel guilty because I'm so used to feeling a certain way that if I feel too happy, I feel a little guilty because I'm like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. But you can appreciate
I
what I'm
can.
talking about, right?
Exactly. I can. It's such a process. It's definitely, like I said, you got to get a lot of credit for actually uh going through that. And it's not
Thanks.
simple. It's not like you can just, like, you read the
No, it
book and
wasn't.
you knew something was wrong and then you've got
Yeah.
all this to deal with. How much farther you're going to go? The repercussions in the just being left on your own, for one. I can't even imagine going from being part of something and then being on your own, totally, that confused, that not knowing what is actually real, what parts were real, like,
Mhm.
because you automatically, you can't think the whole thing's wrong, right?
No,
You
I
because
really
you
did. I
you
knew it
can't,
was all
no
wrong
one
after reading
could.
that book.
How do you
I
just, like,
don't
wake up
this
and
is
say, "Everything I knew before
yeah.
is not right"? Like, you can't go there. No one could go there, right?
Yeah.
No.
You're
No.
right, and that's why my brain
Mhm.
snapped when that book provided information that made me go there. There was no doubting that I was in a cult and I had been deceived my whole life, and also,
Mhm.
that usually happens over a really long process, Claire, so
Mhm.
I don't think just like my dad got into Scientology in a single day, that's rare. Getting
Mhm.
out of Scientology, like, I was a super hardcore believer. Nothing was gonna break my faith. And then a day later, I was out. That's not normal. It usually takes a long time. So I don't recommend that to people necessarily either because it was too much to take on. I lost my fucking mind. I went crazy for a couple years. Crazy in the fact that I knew I was okay, but my whole I mean, I was in trouble and my whole life needed to be dedicated towards having to deal with this new problem. And I had just finally broken into Hollywood. I finally, had a career happening and I all of a sudden have to deal with something that's completely outside of my ability to handle it. You know what I mean? So it was completely overwhelming. And normally it's a slower process where you can learn, you can go through this a little more subtly. But yeah, I really appreciate you saying that too, by the way, Claire, because you understand and you just said exactly what it's like. And that's all I
Mhm.
really needed when I was trying to talk to my friends is someone that understood, but they didn't.
Hopefully,
They
they
kept
didn't.
saying, stop
No,
talking about it. Why just get back to
really.
acting? Why are you letting this ruin your life? Why are you being so hard on your parents? Why, Scientology's not that bad. Like they did, and it's not their fault, but they didn't understand. You know what I mean? But so hearing you say that, it means a lot because I don't know.
Well, it's so, like, I don't think anyone. could, unless they were like, put in their shoes. I also can understand like the other side with your friends too. All they want is better for you. They didn't
Yeah,
understand you were in it to
it's
begin
not
with.
their
So
fault. Yeah,
they just kind of want it gone. Like they just
and
want
I
to remove
understand
you
that. I
from it
did too.
and
Yeah,
just
they're
like
just trying to help me, you know?
and just take you away with them on it, but they don't understand
Mhm.
how hard that process is. And what you really need is just to keep talking about it, keep getting it out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you're anything like me, my thought process is external. It's conversation. It's out. It's verbal. Okay.
Mhm.
I can't just sit somewhere and just think in my head about something.
Exactly. I wrote
Okay.
diaries are a good thing to do. Get it out of your head, put it on
Yeah,
paper.
I
These
learned how to
videos I'm
write it
doing, I
down.
call video
Hmm.
diaries. Yeah, these are just video
Exactly.
diaries I'm doing, you know?
And that whole process of getting it out there, because then you get it out there and you
Mhm.
say it. And then when you say it and
Yes.
you're formulating the sentences and
Yes.
the thoughts and you hear them, they're changing. They're changing
That's
and you're
how
seeing
yes.
them and they're growing. And then you're
Have
getting
you
reactions from other people. And
Mhm.
then, it's like a whole process because I am very much
Mhm.
like you. I'm very external about that. My friends
Mhm.
know this. I can't stop talking. When I go to sleep, I swear to God, I need duct tape to keep me from talking in my sleep. I'm totally that way. I am the epitome of the woman who just talk and talk and that's it. That's why I'm on YouTube to have those conversations to save my friendships, to save the people in my life. I come out here and do it instead of
Right.
driving them crazy. So,
But
um,
Claire, how do you, where were you when I came out of Scientology and needed a friend to talk to? How is it you weren't in a cult, so how is it that you kind of
I
relate or
was on
can
the East
understand?
Coast. I don't know. I just
Because you do. You just described that really well. And like I said, all I needed to hear was those words that you just said from some of my friends, but you really do understand the process. So why do you care, or how do you understand the process having not been in a cult yourself?
I'm very simple that way, and I don't like to speak of myself like talking in the third person, like, "Oh yeah, I'm like
Mhm.
this." But I guess if you're seriously asking me the question, it's because I
Mhm.
have one simple belief that everybody needs a word or an ear sometimes, and it makes
Mhm.
all the damn difference. And I've got no business speaking about anything unless I know where the other side is coming from, because my
Right.
argument can't be intelligent and informed and actually mine,
Mhm.
fully
Mhm.
grown, unless I know what you're saying and I know where you've been. And so I just approach things a little differently. I get a lot of hate for it actually, Doug. They call
Why
me
do you get hate for
know-it-all.
that? Why would you
Oh,
get hate for simply trying to understand and put yourself in the shoes to understand it?
because the world is full of shitty people who don't want to know that people take the high road. That's
Gee,
why.
really? No, I know, but like you
Mhm.
said, you are a glass half empty person, so
Yeah.
you c
I
are
won't I won't play with that. Like, if they're
Mhm.
doing that and whatever, I'm like, "Okay, boo, do you. You go ahead, do you, but drag me down to your level? Never gonna happen." I know
Never
one word,
never argue with
irrelevant.
stupid people. They'll drag you
Exactly.
down to your level and beat you with experience is a famous quote I've
Exactly.
heard. Yeah.
The word irrelevant is very
Yeah.
relevant in my life. I
Exactly. I
okay.
understand. I understand.
Okay. Oh, good. See, you understand me too. See, the
Mhm.
problem why I wasn't there for you, because we're around the same age, I do believe, is that because I'm on the
Mhm.
East Coast and you're on the West Coast, and I don't like to fly. That's it. I just
By the way, I've always felt like an East Coast in my heart. I don't know what the hell. Like, I don't like
like,
any of the people. Not any, but
well,
there's
you
some
are
people. But
honest enough to
Hollywood
vibe
and
over
LA
here.
is the most
Yeah. You
narcissistic, plastic. Like, this is
yeah.
not me. But this is where you have to be if you want to be an actor or whatever. But I've always felt like an East Coast person
Yeah,
in my
you're
heart. Yeah,
honest enough to vibe over here on the East Coast, like,
cool. Thank
definitely,
you.
yes,
I thank you.
and you're open enough too, is because we're all assholes here, and I say that, and anybody who tries to say that they're not, at least own it. We all
Yes,
make
exactly,
mistakes. None of us are perfect. None
exactly.
of us are perfect, and if you can't, like, it means a lot to me that you recognize my willingness to actually hear exactly what you're saying and your experience. That means a lot to me because
Well, it
that's the
means a
only
lot to
reason
me
I'm
that you
here.
just kind of, were able to relate because like I said, haven't talked to a lot of people that are either judgmental or they say that would never happen to me or whatever. It's like,
Mhm,
it's super frustrating. Like all I
mhm,
really need, like if anybody wants to know what ex-cult members need, all they need is somebody that, and this is hard if you haven't lived it. That's why I just asked where's your kind of understanding coming from?
mhm,
Because how can they relate? Two, it does sound a little overly dramatic if you haven't been through an abusive relationship. You just want your friend to just get back on their feet and stop
mhm.
talking about shit that's dragging you down. And it's like all ex-cult members need is somebody that actually literally
Listen,
understands what the hell
ear,
it is. Yeah,
And
just
even
and
if
even
you
if they
don't
don't,
understand,
just to
just
listen.
listen, right, that's it.
Exactly.
I
That's
don't
it. Don't even
claim to
don't judge.
understand.
Don't
Right,
put in your opinion if you don't understand it. Just fucking listen to the guy
yes.
ramble. That's,
Lis Listen to hear, listen to try to understand,
eh,
listen, just be open to the fact that they just have something to say, they need to get it out.
yeah,
That's the
and they can
difference, yeah.
I told I lost so many friends too, and I understand. I'm like, I'm gonna be an irritating person to be around. I wouldn't wanna be around myself. I wouldn't wanna be around an ex-cult member because they, I kinda sucked a lot of my friends' energy dry and brought them down by talking about this constantly, which I needed to offload it. But at the same time, I felt it's not fair to do to them because I wouldn't want to be friends with someone like me in this state of mind either. So it's like this whole double-edged sword. I really needed somebody to listen to me, but I also didn't expect them to because I wouldn't want to listen to someone saying the kind of things that I was saying and being a downer to be around. You know what I mean?
I don't, you can't, if you look at your friends is like if you only want to be around people that don't make you feel or you don't want to relate to
Right.
them, then you're not really a friend anyway.
Yeah,
So
good
like
point.
that's what I mean. I mean, my friends, like if they're down, I want to be there. If they're happy, I want to be there. I want to celebrate with you. I want to
That's
cry
because you're
with
a
you.
good person, but
I
not
want
all people are like that.
see, then I get a
Yeah.
lot I get a lot of that too, like, damn, you're a good
Mhm.
person. You make me feel bad being around you. Oh, okay, boo, but what can
Ah,
I tell you?
ah, ah.
I'm
Well,
not
you
gonna
can't win either
stop.
way. Shit.
I can't win either way. I'm not gonna
That's
stop. So
funny.
I have only one choice and I'm gonna ride with it. I'm gonna be me. You just
Nice.
do you. You can't deal with it. Well, exit stage left. Like I'm not gonna tie you to me. I don't care.
That's
Like
exactly
I,
how
I,
I feel
I don't care
nowadays.
enough to hurt anybody that way, to try to
Right.
bend them to what I need or what has to happen to me. I want
Me
everybody to be
neither, man. That's
comfortable.
why I couldn't
Mhm,
understand my parents and my cult leader, why I have to be bent to their will so much. It's like, why don't you get
mhm,
a life of your own and stop worrying about mine so much?
mhm.
Why do you
Hey,
want to control everybody?
some of my friends, my YouTube friends here, are
Mhm.
asking me if you do Discord. Do you know what the Discord product is out here on
I've
social
used it
media?
a couple times, but I'm not on
Mhm,
there, only to do live streams
right,
or to do interviews at the
mhm,
beginning. I
yeah.
haven't learned that fricking
Well,
thing yet.
I
It's too
I have a
confusing. And
fr
by the
I
way, to Beaver, I don't have a twatter either.
yes, he
Just
just yeah.
Instagram and YouTube. I try to
Oh,
limit
that's not
all the
you?
crap.
I followed you. That's not you.
No,
Is
I
that a
have an
fake you?
account, but I don't use
Yeah.
Twitter, and
Okay.
I hardly use any social media. I don't
Yeah.
really like it. The only
Mhm.
thing is the main thing is the YouTube channel, and people can email me, and
Well,
all the
hearing you
information's there.
speak, the reason that they're mentioning the Discord is that we have a small group there. My channel itself
Mm,
has a server where people that have appeared on it and people who are members or
mhm,
moderators for it, they're kind of like your little tribe, and everyone I
mhm.
collaborate with, we all meet there. And there's like voice channels and stuff where anytime you need to talk to somebody, I assure you, there would be somebody there to talk to. And what they're saying is, yo, Doug, if you need somebody to talk to, like, if you want, join the server. They're
Oh,
welcoming it,
thanks, guys. You
actually.
know
They
what?
are
I'll
actually
get on. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that, and I'll get on that
mhm,
because my friend's been bugging me to get on Discord. I know it's a whole new
mhm,
world. I just been intimidated by learning how to
yeah.
use it, but I don't think it's
It's
that hard,
also
right?
no, it's not that hard, and look at it
Okay.
this way, it's a really great way to make internet phone calls cheap, easy. You just push the button for
Oh.
the phone. You could talk
Oh,
one-on-one
nice.
or with a group of people. And Doug, let me educate you on how that's gonna help your channel
Please.
because you can have group calls after you have membership and stuff, and you can have group calls
Mm.
with people and actually talk to you about your experience, people you really wanna help. But we could talk about that after.
Wow. Wow. Okay,
Okay.
I would like to know more about that.
Yeah, I'm
It's
all about
okay.
sharing too, like small creator to creator,
Thank
like
you.
get the,
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. We
well,
have to help each other out. But I really like what you just said. I don't want to eat up people's time by you describing it on the air, but I want to
mhm.
definitely know more about
No,
that.
no, you and I, we have each other's emails. We'll find a way to
Mhm.
comfortably get the information together because I'm all about like if you
Thanks,
want
Claire.
it, I'm all about giving it to you. So,
Fucking A.
uh,
Thank you.
yeah. Hey Barry, it's nice to see you.
And yes, a Beaver, I do have Twitter. But I don't even know how to log into my own
Yeah.
account.
She's
So
trying to insist that you follow me now because you only have 3 followers and I should be in your tribe. Like she's being pushy. I told her to stop. She like but
she's funny.
she's a
Yeah.
friend of mine and she has good intentions. She does. And but Yeah, it's like, but I said, "Joe, stop making him try to read the chat because we want to stay on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We want
I
no, no,
That was
don't
my
you
bad for
apologize. No,
hey,
that's
I'm the one
fine.
that took it up, Claire. Let me take
Yeah,
Scientology taught
okay.
me to take responsibility, so that was my fault.
And you know what? Accountability is a thing. I'm all for it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, throw yourself on
Yes.
that sword. That's fine.
I
Okay.
know.
You do
I
it.
won't I won't I'm not gonna do it in a masochistic, twisted way, though, like it
No,
got all
please
inverted
don't.
in the
I'd have
cult,
to
yeah.
stop you. I'd have to interfere. You would bring out like the nag in me. I would have to make you stop. Yeah. Because along with my openness and everything else, I can be a bit pushy if I think
Hey, you're from the
I don't
East
want you
Coast,
to
it's to be
hurt yourself.
expected.
It is. Yes, it is. Thank you. See, you get me. You absolutely get me. Like
I
that didn't
told
take
you
long at all.
I have East
Yeah.
Coast in my heart, and I'm stuck out here in fucking
Oh, we're
Los
gonna get
Angeles.
along just fine. I hope you know what? We have a little bit more time, but I do hope you'll come back.
Anytime
There
you wanna
is
talk, I'd love to. I appreciate
I
you having me
think
on.
there's so much more to say about this subject. So
We
much
could
more
talk
that
about it literally for 10 hours, like, we
we
could just
can.
talk about it
Mhm,
forever.
mhm. Well, what do you
It's impossible to cover, like, sign this whole subject and the whole I mean, we didn't even get into hardly any of it, right? We're almost 2 hours deep, but yeah,
mhm,
that's one of the things about Scientology, it's impossible to cover, hence why I have all those fucking videos up there and step by step because it's
mhm.
impossible to cover, the totality
Yeah.
of it in an interview.
Uh-huh. It is, and I hope YouTube's ready. There are quite a few channels out there that talk just about the Scientology end of it, and mostly I want to leave that to the ex-Scientologists like yourselves that can do the most good. But I hope that you'll join me as someone who wants to do that. Is I am really thinking of starting a series of my own called Culture Conversations and highlighting the cult and the con in those issues. Um
Awesome. And maybe we
uh,
can even do, I'm doing a 3-part series with that narcissistic psychopath, just to
mhm.
let you know who I'm talking about, because it sounds kinda crazy when you say that. He's a
Well, there's so
self-aware
many to
narcissist.
choose from. Yeah, there's so many
Yeah.
you can choose
This is the
from.
guy who I ran into in 2016 when I was in a one-on-one relationship and I was getting love bombed, and it felt very familiar, and I just happened to run across this guy's information after studying a ton about narcissism before that, and it just really penetrated. So he was kind enough to be my first interview when I started my channel. Like, I was really excited to interview him. And we've done 9 interviews now, and he's a self-aware narcissistic psychopath that tells you how his kind thinks, and we're gonna do a little 3-part cult
Oh!
series coming up.
Oh
So I
my
was
god.
thinking maybe the
Well, be
3 of us would
prepared.
get together or something,
I would
in the
love
future.
that.
Mm.
I can't wait to meet an actual narcissist who wants to speak about narcissism. I have
Oh, I
feelings
mean,
about
yeah, if you ever
I
wanna
have
have him on
done
your show or whatever, yeah,
Oh, no, no, I would
reach out.
call no, of course, he's your guest, like, I'm gonna be
He's not
very
my
polite, I would
mine
say
anything, and, it's not
mhm.
mine. If you ever wanna talk to him or anybody,
I
just let me
I
know.
would I would love it. I would love to talk to him. I would love to talk to all of you actually. Like I said, the fact that you're all willing to talk is what I want to promote. And the fact that you're
Mhm.
all willing, this is what I want to praise about all of you, especially you, Doug. You are out here in the YouTube world, it's really hard when you're small like me. People don't want to have the conversations. You guys
Mhm.
don't look at that. You don't look at that. You look at the conversation, which is all I'm trying to do is get those conversations out there for people to hear,
Mhm.
to get the good information. And you guys, you had great respect for that. And listen, we're going to be good.
Well
We're going to be good for quite
Well,
a while.
we appreciate having places that actually give a crap and want to that's why I love what
Hmm.
you do. Anybody that takes up the fight, like, you don't even have a dog in this
Mm-mm.
race, you don't have to
Hmm.
talk about Masterson and Scientology and true crime and cover the stuff that you do. So, just you having me on, it really the fact that anybody gives a crap about this stupid UFO lunatic asylum cult
Hmm.
and actually wants to hear the story, and that really means a lot to me, and I'm sure all of us exes, just the fact that
Yeah.
anybody would want to
It,
open the
it's
conversation on such a
It's so important because, it can't be an us versus them thing. Being an
Mhm.
Scientologist out there trying to speak on it and then having to go up against Scientology. You need people that are on the outside to actually look at it and say,
Yes.
"Uh-huh, I see that. I see what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
see it, and I want to get it out there. That's what it is for me. It's about
Yeah.
helping to get rid of the misinformation. I am what you would call, oh gosh, I'm going to use more woke terms. I hate that, but
Oh
I,
god,
I'm
don't
going to
get me
be.
started on the woke agenda.
I would consider myself an issue-based activist. I don't believe in just like, joining a group and banging a drum about anything. Nobody
Mhm.
could really call me like a feminist or an extremist in anything. It's all about a issue at a
Mhm.
time. And
You'd
this
make
one,
a terrible cult leader, by the way.
I know I tell them that all the time. They're in the chat trying to get me to start a cult. No, I don't care. I don't care enough. People do what you do. Like,
And plus you have a conscience too, which means you wouldn't be able to start a cult. That's the key. You have to delete your conscience or not care about
hmm
hurting people in order to form a cult.
hmm
Because Claire,
no,
I learned fucking everything. Like one of the things that's really interesting about Scientology is he teaches us kind of a lot of there's no truth in there. There's cheese, stolen half truths and all that to get you in there. So it's all bullshit when you get right down to it. But to come out of something like that and learn, he teaches us all the tricks that I never would have learned, and I never learned in
hmm
high school or college or anything. So I got a lot of knowledge by being fucked over by this guy. And he
right.
also doesn't realize that if you survive, if you live to tell about it, they're going to make very strong enemies. Not the right word, but let's just say, because I'm not against Scientologists, they're under the same spell I was, so I could never be better than them, and I could never. Um, I was that guy, so now it becomes like once you understand it, then you have to try to not even save people, just put information out there so that they have an alternative to hear than what's going into their ear through the brainwashing, which is all they
hmm
hear 24/7. I mean, I wanted to save my parents for the longest time, and I wanted to kill them for the longest time. I went through every
hmm
emotion you can imagine, but finally I hit this point where it's not my job to save anybody or convert anybody because I'm just doing the
hmm
same thing that my freaking parents did to me. So if I need them to not be a Scientologist for me to live my life, how is that any different than them telling me I need to be a Scientologist? So it wasn't going to work out with my parents one way or the other. Like I said, as a kid, I had this vision in the future where I was like going to have to make this extreme decision. I didn't realize how real that sort of feeling was as a kid, but I don't want to change my parents or anybody. I don't want to there was a huge urge to rescue all the Scientologists at first. And I'm going to be a superhero and get my parents out of the cult. And all it did was just alienate me from them more. They got pushed further into the cult,
hmm
and they're not savable anyways, like I said, because they don't have a conscience. So what is there to save? Just I'll go my way, you go your way, but at least if you put information out, then they have the option to make another choice without you shoving a damn thing down anybody's throat, because I don't want to
That
fucking change anybody. I just want to be left alone, and I don't want to control anybody either, especially after being made into a master controller as a Scientologist. Like, I just tried to go the exact opposite direction. That was another good thing about my parents in Scientology, is they were and I don't mean this to be mean, I'm just saying, like, they set a perfect example of everything that I don't want to be. So if I just do the opposite of this is kind of what I
mhm,
was using to get myself out when I was like,
right.
when the programming was pulling me back constantly like a rubber band. I just kept
Mhm,
telling myself, like, I just need to keep you know I just need to get the fuck out of this, build up my own self confidence, and not try to rescue anybody, but to save myself. And then when you save yourself, you can perhaps be an example. You can put out information without forcing a damn thing on anybody. Because as long as I was trying to get other people to change so I could feel better, there was something still missing that I needed to look at within myself. And it's amazing because I felt that way for a decade. I thought it's a heroic thing to do. It's the right thing to
mhm.
do. No one was going to convince me otherwise. I have to save my parents. And people always leave comments where, I hope your parents get out one day. I hope, you save them.
It
Man,
it
that's not our job. And
it's not
that's what got
because
me roped into Scientology. We're not here to
right.
save anybody, just to be the best we can. And then you automatically rub off on other people. And I think that's the best it can be, man.
I'm telling you, that is such an important message, and I hope everybody hears that clearly, is that even though Scientology was damaging to you and that
Mhm.
you see it a certain way, you were in it, you understand some of the good, some of the bad, you understand how you got there. you actually are acknowledging that it's no one's place to tell another what is good for
Yeah.
them
It's
or what
so
their
true,
beliefs
though.
are, okay? And I
Mhm.
stand with that. I stand with that. And
Amen.
I commend you because you're making these videos. You're not only leaving a path for them to find on their own, should they choose, once they
Mhm.
come looking. You're not saying,
Mhm.
yo, you need to see this. Yo, come here. You got to get out. You have to do
Yeah.
that.
I
Like, I
was
have to
like that
save
for a
you.
long time, but that was not
But
healthy.
you're
Yeah.
using the vehicle not only to help yourself, because I truly believe that you putting this out there. I think you're a little bit. I don't want to judge and I don't want to assume, but I think you're a little
Mhm.
more like me, where you have to have it on the outside. You're more
Yeah.
external. You have to
Yeah.
have these conversations, and no
Mhm.
one's having these conversations with you. This is your way of having it with YouTube,
Exactly.
having it with the
Exactly.
world, and leaving a footprint to do good for the others that may follow you, but not telling them they have to. But here it
Yeah.
is, my story, benefit from it. I'm leaving it here for you on purpose. It's like a double do. It's like the best of both worlds, Doug. I commend you because you're doing
Thank
good
you,
for
Claire.
yourself at the same time going to be doing good for others. Like, um your story, just even hearing your story affects others in a way they won't get taken in by Scientology.
I hope
There may
not.
they may be a 16-year-old young man or young woman who
Mhm.
sees your videos and then gets approached by a Scientologist on the
Yes.
streets of Los Angeles this week and say,
Yes.
"Hell no, I know how this is going to end. Mm-mm, ain't going
That's
there."
it's so funny you say
Okay.
that, 'cause that's
Be-
the best
uh,
that I'm hoping for, exactly,
mhm,
preventative, like someone
mhm,
maybe we can't get them out, but someone watches, mine or any of the Ex's videos or any other videos of any cults, and that prevents them from they're in Las Vegas, they get hit up with the personality test,
mhm,
and they go, "Wait a minute, I saw that dude's videos, I'm gonna pass on that." And you just save somebody's, preventative, rather than trying to, because once they're
mhm,
captured, you can't communicate with them. They're not gonna click on the videos and they're not going to open up a conversation, but you'll never know. Anybody that speaks out, they'll never know how much preventative work they actually did. I hope I hope that that's happening to some degree, because that is like a goal. That's not trying to change anybody. That's trying to give them information so they won't get caught up with that stupid Scientology registrar that, is love bombing them, like you said,
mhm.
with the personality test, and then there goes their life.
True, but that's the thing, and as long as you're proud and you own what you're putting there, and you're good with it, and then it stays there, and it's definitely going to help other people. You never
Hmm.
know what
Hmm.
those words are going to help someone along. And I also have to commend again, because it's at great risk, because I'm sure you get a lot from those people that are against
Not
it.
really.
Not
You know,
anymore. Yeah.
well, it's safe. I have this is a double answer, because in one way it's not super safe because they still do fair game. They still, if you're a
Mhm,
prominent critic, I'm not, I'm nobody, but if you're the bigger critics or whatever, I'm sure they're all over Mike Rinder's ass. He's an ex-Scientologist that was at the top ranks of Scientology. He worked in their dirty tricks department called OSA, or Office of Special Affairs, which is the
mhm.
equivalent of their CIA, or intelligence
Oh
gathering
boy.
division.
Okay. Yeah.
He was in there for 2.5 decades. So can you imagine, how much crap he gets for
Mhm.
speaking out as much as he does?
Mhm.
But it's because of a lot of people that came before. I haven't. I don't. It's so hard to tell, Claire, because some unusual thing happened when I first started speaking out. I had
Well, you
my
did say it
I had,
affected your career, like, you did
Oh,
mention
well,
that.
that's a different thing. That was a long time ago. I mean, I couldn't
Mhm,
even what happened, Claire, it was like I said, it was like that hard drive being deleted in one day. So
mhm.
I couldn't focus on auditions. I couldn't focus, like, I had a whole new life purpose all of a sudden, where
You had to
my
start over,
I
finding
really
out
did. It was
for
like being
yourself.
6
Yeah.
years old, the way I describe it. It's like being 6 years old in my 30s. I'm way, way, way behind the normal human race knowledge. So I gotta learn what you guys learn. And then on top of that, I had just literally just to start life all over again. But it was a great
Mhm,
gift too, because, I could have gone through, and I bet you most people probably do this unless a hammer smashes them over the face. What's
right.
going to break that programming? Once you get locked in, you become your parents to a certain degree. You take on society's roles to a certain degree. You take on your parents' religion or whatever. There's so many influences, right? But it was an incredible gift in a certain way, because it was literally like being brand new, like being born again.
Mhm,
I hate to use that phrase, because I don't do religion at all. To each their own. but it really is
Mhm.
like being born again. And it's like, it was a gift because even though I'm so age regressed, I'm so far behind everybody else, and I have a lot of work to do.
Mhm.
It was like I didn't have any preconceived ideas. It was like a blank sheet of paper, and the only thing that was going to go on that blank sheet of paper was now my thoughts, my ideas, and I got to come up with that all on my own without any influence at all. I was very determined to make up my own mind
Wow.
and to suffer through this, and
Mhm.
it was great, Claire, because what else like if I didn't get smashed over the head and get put in that position, I'm not saying I wanted to or it's anybody
Mhm.
should. I'm just saying, it's unusual. It was like a midlife crisis that
Mhm.
really woke me the fuck up. And minus an experience like that, I probably just would have been a concatenation of all the various beliefs that I'm sure most people just assume are them. But so
Mhm.
much of what I grew up with, not just Scientology, wasn't me. And it was a great opportunity to start over and only put on that blank sheet of paper what is
Mhm.
feels real to me without anybody telling me that I couldn't, you know?
No, and that's an amazing thing there too, because the way it happened for you, some like they didn't do an intervention. It's not like 10 people got together and pointed out everything that was wrong
Right.
with your life.
Right. I
Okay.
don't think that would have worked either.
Listen,
Yeah, good
listen,
point.
you were ready because all they did was
Yeah.
drop a book at your door and you read
Mhm.
the book and you were open to what the book had in it. You were taking in the knowledge and you were like, whoa. So I think you
Mhm.
were already kind of there because for that
I
to
was
affect you a little
subconsciously,
bit.
but yeah.
Subconsciously, there were bells going off in your head
There really
for
was, but it was
for
below my awareness, but I only
Mhm.
realize that now, of course, but you're right.
Yeah.
I was right. He dropped that book off right at the right point, Claire, because looking
Yep.
back on it, there's about 2 years there where I was pulling away from Scientology. I was never gonna leave it. I was just gonna go
Mhm.
out and get some acting work. Pull My goal was to pull away from Scientology, go get some acting work, make some money, and pay for my next level OT for it. But because I was away for a while and I just focused on the career, that was already breaking the mind control without me even knowing it. So I was primed and pumped to have that book dropped off right at that time. I wouldn't have accepted it before. I wouldn't have accepted it afterwards. It was literally like I'm not I don't know how to describe it. It's just like I think if you need the answers to something, something will happen as long
Mhm.
as you fucking need it. And I needed it.
Mhm. And
And this guy,
you
by
were
the way,
open
was
to it. Yeah.
this
Go
guy
on.
wasn't necessarily a friend. He's a narcissist. He wasn't doing
Mhm.
it to help me necessarily, although he'll claim otherwise. He's been a big pain in the ass since I started
Mhm.
this YouTube channel and tried to weasel his way into my life. So,
He sounds so charming, I can't wait to meet him, and I mean that seriously, I
I mean,
cannot wait to meet
I
him.
owe the
Like
guy. You know what? He kinda I told him forever that I owe you. I'm thank you a million times. He's like, "Shut up, dude. I'm so tired of hearing it." He did me a fantastic service, but it doesn't
I'm
mean he was a
thrilled
good
that you're
person.
I'm thrilled that you're both still talking because that's
No,
amazing.
we're not.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Okay.
No, he had me kind of under his thumb because he's a narcissist, unaware narcissist.
Mhm.
He'll listen to this show and he'll kill me for saying that and all that. I don't give a fuck. Like this guy, is not a very good person, and he tried to kind of sabotage the YouTube channel right when I was starting it out. I won't go into any more detail, but I try to get him out of my life, and he just doesn't go away.
Mhm.
He wasn't doing it out of the goodness of his heart necessarily. He was doing it out of jealousy and to get back at me. And I don't think he thought it was going to actually snap me out of it. I just don't think
Oh,
he liked me.
he was just trying
But
to hurt you in a little bit of a way, like, "Here's the truth, and I hope it hurts."
exactly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Mhm.
matter, man. And I still, love him for
No.
doing that. And
Mhm.
the angels can come in as a disguise of a devil or whatever. I don't know what the phrase would be,
Mhm.
but in other
Mhm.
words, sometimes your greatest teachers or gifts, they don't have to come from, Puritan people. It can come from your quote
Exactly.
unquote enemies. Yeah.
We learn from every experience.
Exactly.
I
There you
learned
go.
from every knife in my back, every
Mhm.
liar I met, every person that's really
Those
go
are
out
where
of
I
their
learn more
way.
than anything else,
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
the dark side is I've learned more from pain,
Mhm.
and I mean, I don't relish in it, not especially not anymore. But
No, of
while I
course.
wanted to put a gun to my head during all this, like, what kept me going is I'm
Right.
like, I'm actually learning, like, this is super painful. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but god damn it, I can feel things for the first time. And
Mhm.
this is, these dark moments taught me more than any of the
Mhm.
light moments. Scientology, Claire, is like a self, like a new age positivity, just think positive thoughts, like everything's
Mhm.
positive, everything's using self-hypnosis to reinforce your ideas.
Right.
I call it like the
Wait a
seek.
minute. Can I blame Scientology for woke? Because that would feel
They're
good.
very similar.
Yes,
Um,
okay.
I
That
don't think
woo,
they
it is
created it, but it's similar.
it's like an offshoot, like,
Yeah,
whoa,
I don't know how
wait
you
a
feel
minute.
about the woke thing, but to me, it's just
Well,
absolute
the
lunacy.
it we are on the same page more often than not, though, because
Well,
yes,
you
that's
gotta
why
be
I
careful
said
about talking out about this, and also I need to make sure
no,
that
I
I
don't.
understand
No, I
what I'm
don't.
talking about, because I know that wokers will say, "Hey, it's not just
No.
this," that they have a
Mhm.
different, but to me, when I say woke, I'm talking about having to call people by their pronouns. I have to adjust my reality
Yeah,
to
you're
fit
talking
someone's
about
fake
being
reality. Yeah.
so politically correct that you can't breathe, that you're not even allowed to
Yeah,
form a
that's
sentence
what that's a
naturally. I
cult.
get
That's
what you're
what
saying.
Orwell does.
Yeah.
These are
Yep.
mind control techniques. I
Exactly.
don't need to
Exactly.
agree and change
Mhm.
science and reality to
N
go along with
now,
someone's
do
insanity.
I believe that we shouldn't go out of our way to make other people uncomfortable or to hurt them? Sure, I do, and absolutely, I ride like that all the time. But to
Mhm.
force thing, I'm so against, the only part of woke I'm against is the forcing of it on others that,
That's the
"Oh,
only
it's
part I'm
gotta be that
against. To
way."
each their own.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap
Mhm.
what anybody's sexuality is. Even when they train me to be a bigot in Scientology, I never
Mhm.
took that on. I don't give a fuck what anybody does. I just don't like
Mhm.
it when it's enforced on me and other people.
Exactly.
Like, your sex, your business, your whatever, it's
Mhm.
all good. You do
Right.
you. But
Mhm.
when it's being shoved down our throats and we have to change our reality to go along with your insanity, that's when it
Mhm.
crosses the line, because it's
Ex
trying to enforce your will on somebody else.
and which I'm totally against because
Me too.
as much as they all think I come off like a know-it-all and like this, that, and the other thing, I'm not. I'd be the first one to tell you I don't know everything. Definitely, I do not. I am not perfect. I don't know it. Am I still learning and growing? Yes. Do I want to share what I know? Yes. But I'm not going to say everything. It's right. You'll never hear me say I'm right and you're wrong. Okay,
I would never say that either.
unless I'm joking with my partner because, they like to hear that they're right, they get a little sparkle in their eyes if you go, "Yes, you're right." That's different.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about, like, in a conversation, or anything like that. This is why I hate to debate because,
Yeah,
like,
me too. I don't even
the
like to debate about these things, because once
yeah,
somebody has their mind, you know what I don't like to debate at all? Religion,
I hear
politics,
you. I hear
and
you.
because
You're
once
so
somebody
coming
has
back.
their thing set on that, it's
Yeah,
it's pointless, Claire. It's like trying to talk to my
it's true.
brainwashed Scientologist. It's not
Mhm,
going to make any impact. It's just going to end in
mhm,
disagreement and both of us walking away feeling bad.
right.
And
It
yeah.
For the record, I'm an atheist, but I absolutely believe
Hmm.
that anyone can believe what they want. I have many people in the chat who believe, and I'm fine
Hmm.
with it because they don't tell me I have to believe. And I don't tell them you have to not believe. Like, I don't go, "Hey, I'm judging you on that." And they don't judge me. And I've had
Hmm.
conversations with people constantly. I just had a Twitter conversation about Elon Musk and free speech with a friend who's very right and I'm very left. And we
Hmm.
didn't actually murder each other. We went on for
That's
almost 2 hours.
good.
But those are the conversations I want to have. Tough conversations. I've done
Yeah.
Roe versus Wade. I did the gay rights. I did the use of I'll do
Oh
the one
God, you
about
really
the
jumped into the
pronouns.
lion's den. Oh my
I'm
God, you're asking for it, because I wouldn't even go there, because where do you even start with that?
Where do I start? Body
Yeah.
autonomy. Who the heck, like, I have a little bit of an attitude about it because I'm a woman. I'll
Have you
just say
ever
body
talked?
autonomy. Mhm.
So let's say you have, and again, I might not have the term woke, so don't jump on me, people. I'm
No.
not an
Go
expert on
ahead.
the woke. What we're talking about, my understanding is the pushing of, the agenda, basically. Like, you need to call me by my
Exactly.
pronouns, and I can change my
Mhm.
sex, and a male can now, or a you can change your sex and enter sporting events, and beat all the fucking, it's just so ludicrous to me, man. It's like one
It is
person
and yeah, it
one
is and
person
it
up here
isn't,
said
too. Mhm.
it's about, let me pull this up here. Sorry, it just caught my attention, but it said it's about woke is just about having respect for other human beings. See, like, it's
Now, yes,
immediately I
it
would go
should. Yeah.
into debate mode about that, because it's not. If that was true, then why do I have to conform to, that reminds me so much of Scientology, because
Mhm.
I had a guy leave a
Mhm.
comment the other day that says, just leave them alone. Why, they're not. like, why
But
do you
here's the
care? Just but if something's criminal like Scientology and is literally doing, illegal activities,
true.
so what?
Mhm,
Do you just sit on the side? Now, you don't have to beat somebody over the head with that, but you
mhm.
should challenge it. You should at least put out information that
If
people
you
can
have
have without any kind of hate in your heart or anything. But
Mhm,
certainly things that are irrational need to be challenged. So if
mhm,
we let this go and we let Orwell says 2 plus 2, when you can get people to say 2 plus 2 equals 5, you got them.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
as soon as we start descending into insanity where we can change sex and just make, in other words, make reality what we want it to believe be,
Yeah, but
that's
you
what it's
see,
not.
there's the other
There's
side of
yeah.
it too, Doug. Like
Hmm,
I get
please.
what you're saying because you're saying like what I think you're pushing against, and correct me if I'm wrong, is
Hmm.
the perception that you just have to accept everything as that's the way it's going to be. And you're
Yeah.
entitled to have that opinion, but they are also have very valid points about how they feel and what they want to express themselves and
Oh,
with
I
the
totally
technology
understand that.
and I think they have the right to. What I don't want is like if I misspeak about a pronoun or
Hmm.
something and don't intentionally try to hurt somebody, I've been hung out for it. And I really resented that. But are they entitled to have a pronoun if they want it? Absolutely. I'm totally
Yeah.
for it
Do you
because
think we
that's
need
their
do you
comfort
think
and
we
that's
need to
their
conform around that now, though? Do you think we now
I
need to have it in our consciousness where we have to now, rather than having a conversation
well,
like in
let
the
me
'80s
flip
and
it on you.
'90s, now we have to think too much
Here
about,
here's where I'm
"Uh-oh."
gonna make you think, Doug, just a little
Please.
bit. And I'm sorry if I make you uncomfortable,
No, you're not at all.
but
I love this
but
kinda
when
talk.
I look at it, okay, is that when somebody said something in the chat that spoke to you personally because it was about Scientology,
Mhm.
you remember what that felt like? But you have the right to actually feel that, like, hey,
Yeah.
like, yo, don't talk about me like that because, like, I'm just trying to do this about that. That's what I'm saying. When you say that about this whole woke thing with transgender without actually immersing yourself in where they're coming from, that's what that felt like to them.
Oh, and believe me, I understand that, and I even talk about that
Yeah.
on my channel where, when I was coming out of the cult, there was 2, gay gentlemen that gave me work when I was, like,
Mhm.
homeless or
Yeah.
whatever, and one of
Because
the
I don't think that there's anything wrong with where they're thinking or what they're thinking about it either. The extremists, I will admit here, and I'm going to say it, and some people will be upset. Are there extremists about it? Yes, there are. Do I ride with the extremists? No, I don't.
Mhm.
But the actual I think if you feel like you were born different, and I know medically that it is possible. I've studied
That's not what
first of
I'm
all,
arguing about at all,
yeah.
though. I'm just talking
Oh
about
no,
when it's shoved down
you're
people's
talking about
throat and
when
there
it's
appears to be an
shoved down.
agenda. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm
But
trying to get
like I
at. So
said, to
you could
each
make
their
your
own.
point
It's only
clearer.
I
Yeah.
only draw the
Mhm.
line when it feels like
Mhm.
there's an agenda and it's being no, I know there's transgenders.
Yeah.
And like I said, my
Yeah.
best mates are gay and they legitimately are gay. And he felt like he couldn't tell his parents about that and it fucked his whole life up until he finally was able to come
Mhm.
out and be who he really is. I
Mhm.
don't take any issue. I
Exactly.
don't care
It
about what
doesn't
people's
do
sexuality
anything.
is. They should be able to
Right.
be whatever the hell they
Exactly.
want. I'm
Whatever
talking
they
about when
want.
it gets shoved down people's throat and we need to
Exactly.
bend around when it starts to get insane and there's
You
appears to be
you're
an
talking
agenda and we
about
have to bend around it. That's what I'm talking about
You're
it.
talking about the extremist things that are happening, which
Exactly.
which is happening in more than just that area. So it's really not,
Exactly.
we're not
It's
talking
not
about
fair to
just
just
that.
talk about
Right.
woke. We're talking about
Because
anything that tries to
Mhm,
impose their will on somebody else, but everybody has the right to feel what they want to.
mhm,
And believe me, you know what? Like what you were saying earlier, like if I'm transgender, I would feel like however they fucking feel because that's who I am. So you said to see
mhm.
it from their viewpoint. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Absolutely, and that's what I was trying to get at because I kind of felt that that's what you were saying, and I wanted it clear to them that you're not
I know, and
saying
you have to be
it.
really
Yeah,
clear, by the way. Other
and
people
right,
leave like they you
because
don't you have to
people
pick
will
the
jump
exact right
on
words and they'll
something
exactly.
and say that,
I'm
"Oh, what
not
are you?" Yeah,
I'm not
you are not
racist,
saying
bigot. I
anything
don't give
never
a
yeah,
fuck.
yeah,
The only
yeah.
thing is that I care about is when it's shoved down my fucking throat and I have to bend
Mhm.
my own reality around things that don't make any sense to me. That's what I'm talking about.
Right,
I
right,
have like I said before, do you just don't who gives a fuck about your sexuality? And
right.
it doesn't
Yep.
need to be talked about and shoved down everybody's throat.
Exactly. And there's a comment they're saying like what how is it shoving down your throat to ask someone to use a pronoun or to say, would you please refer to me a woman? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the extremists. That is totally acceptable, at least to me. I
It's
won't
not
speak
to
for
me,
Doug,
but I
but
would disagree
to
with you
me,
on that. Yeah.
if somebody wants to be, I believe in the comfort. If it's not going to hurt me, that's fine.
But
And actually,
it's changing reality bit by bit by bit. This is how it happens though.
no,
Like
but
if we
no,
start to descend,
but whose reality are we talking about? I could flip
well,
that
if
on
we
you, Doug,
start to
and say
descend,
yours or theirs, because their
mhm,
reality, Doug, is that they
mhm.
are a woman and they want to be referred that way. Your reality is that's not what I see. But what does it hurt you to call them a woman, honestly?
Just because it wasn't something that was ever on anybody's mind or consciousness, and then you know what? I had this litmus test. Whenever something's nowhere and then suddenly it's everywhere overnight, it's not
Hmm.
a matter of any of the issues that are legitimately what they're talking about. It's more like you need to bend your reality and the science around stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but
And
there's
it's
plenty of
slowly
science that
changing
says,
reality.
yeah, but the science is there that that person that's asking you, even though you say they don't exactly appear as a woman, if they're telling you that that's what they want to be like, there is
Then they
science
should.
there
Yeah,
chemically that
I
they could
agree.
be a woman
I
and you don't
totally.
know.
That's not what I'm
So,
arguing
and
about.
yeah, oh
Yeah,
no, that's what I'm trying to get, because I don't
I
think
get it.
you are, and I don't want them to think you are, because that would be a misnomer on my part to let them carry on thinking that way when I do not believe that's what you're saying.
Can I
So,
give you an example of that, Claire? In the schools out here in Los Angeles, kids are being questioned, or when I was growing up, they didn't. There's always been transgenders. There's always been gays, straights, whatever. When it gets to the kids where they're being told to question or having seeds implanted in their mind, when their brains are developing and they're young and perhaps sexuality isn't even really on their mind, to me, it seems like a form of grooming at the extreme level and what's happening in some schools where, whereas they wouldn't question their sexuality before, perhaps they're getting brainwashed in a certain way to question that when that simply was not around before. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about whether or
mhm.
not someone is really transgender. They really are. And if someone is
Well,
in the
there
wrong,
is.
if someone does feel like they're in the wrong body and sex or whatever, and I know that that's real, they absolutely should be able to do whatever they want. I'm just talking
Mhm,
about getting to the kids and getting people.
mhm,
This just was not an issue, and what, the last 5 or 10 years maybe. All of a
mhm.
sudden, it's like, we got them pushing this on kids and stuff. That's where it crosses the line from just
Yeah,
for me
see,
personally.
I know, but you see, I don't see it being pushed. And I agree that it could perceive that way to others, but I don't think having knowledge and acceptance of other lifestyles and other ways that people are is actually pushing people towards a certain direction. I think it makes you
Mhm.
more, when you know of more out there, you become more confident in what you really are. So if you're not threatened by the knowledge, that's fine. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying
Mhm.
that you are. I'm just saying that some words that you're choosing are making it appear a different way. I understand that what you're saying is you don't want to be forced into believing something you don't see and feel for yourself. And I get that. And you have every right to be that way. But I don't really think people are pushing this agenda on anybody. It is, but
Oh,
it
I
is an
do.
uncomfortable topic. I know you see it with the
Mhm.
younger kids, but I'm
Oh,
gonna
I've seen
say
it out
that.
here in LA. I've talked to parents that have been really
Well,
concerned about that
I
happening with their
do,
kids.
and I have friends in LA also that do have children right now that they don't want to have a sexual identity at all, or they switch from one to the other within a couple of
Mhm.
months. And I get what you're talking about, but we are talking about teenagers, and that's going to happen anyway. What that is a micro. It looks like a small picture on what's happening bigger everywhere. With the world is a
Mhm. I
smaller
hear you.
place. We are exposed to more things. But when you say things like pushing it, I don't think just being aware of it is not pushing it. Yes, the world is smaller now, so they're more exposed to it. But I don't think
Mhm.
there's an agenda out there to
I would
push
just
it at
disagree with
all.
that. That's all I'm saying. I just
Yeah,
think that there
that's
is.
fine,
That's
and
all.
you're entitled to do that. And you absolutely can. But I just think it's more of the world being a smaller place than the exposure and teenagers being teenagers. Like, I do see that a lot of parents are having a problem with it. I have people in
Yeah,
my
I've actually
family that have
talked
a
to one
problem with
that
it.
really had
Um,
their kid's mind, it was basically like cult brainwashing. They had to kind of, rescue their kid. It was suddenly because of the teacher
mhm.
questioning their identity, and I think they were, what, 8 or 9 years old, so that's
Well, why
not
would a teacher do that? You see, that's what I mean. I don't think
well,
it's an
because there's an
agenda of,
agenda. That's
but
why I think. Well,
you
I'm just
think
saying
that
this wasn't
teacher
in
is
our world
part
until
of
fairly
a.
recently. It just all of a sudden came out of nowhere. That's why
Well,
I
I think
told
that's
you,
more that teacher than a policy that they have, don't you? Like, I don't know.
like I said, my litmus test is if something's nowhere and then suddenly it's everywhere, it's being pushed. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, and I understand, and I think I know where that's coming from too. Like, I can understand why you think that. I really do, because
Mhm.
that's your experience from the life that you've had. That's your experience,
Well, it's just
and
what I
so I see
observed
it.
though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. You see it. You see it. You literally see it. So, I'm not going to challenge that, but that is a nice conversation to have. I hope you're willing to have it with
See, do
me
you
and
see
and a
what
couple.
I do you see why I try to stay away from all this stuff though? Because it's
No,
like
that's okay, and
it's just it
yeah.
goes nowhere, and then I probably offended
Mhm.
50 people without meaning to do so, and I
No,
probably
that's
didn't
okay.
say it exactly like I need to, but yeah, I
But I
definitely
understand it. You're still entitled to your opinion, and I hope they're all open enough to say that you don't, that you're allowed to look at it your way too. I just wanted to make
Mhm.
sure that they understood where you were coming from, that you're not
Yeah, I'm not
against.
trying to be
Yeah.
insensitive or
Mhm.
not see
Mm-mm.
see it from where they're coming from. I
Mhm.
was trying to really nail it down to because, like I said, I've talked with parents out here in LA, and to me,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just as simple as the fact that I think it's being pushed on people and not an organic thing. That's all I'm saying.
Mhm. Yeah, because like here, mostly I see here on the East Coast in the education system, they're
Mhm.
actually reverting back to a different view. There's actually more push to actually go back to Bible. Like, there is no such thing as Adam and Steve. There's only Adam and Eve. And I'm against that too, because I think the pushing in any, just to be clear, the
Yeah.
pushing in any direction, especially in an
Mhm.
educational system where our
Mhm.
minds are supposed to be open and we're supposed to have true
Exactly.
knowledge. We're supposed to be learning true knowledge,
Yeah,
real
exactly.
knowledge, not opinion. Okay, not
Exactly.
opinion of the masses or the
That's why they don't
minority
have
or
religion in
whatever.
school.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, except for now they do, unfortunately, all over the
Yeah,
country. In
that's not good.
yeah, and that's the thing. But
But from the perspective of a Christian, that's a very good thing. So it's all depends on what your
it's
belief
it
is.
it does, but it doesn't. You see, when you're trying to do it as a perspective of a smaller group or a group, any group, I don't care the
Mhm.
size, then you are eliminating the actual knowledge. It's opinion and belief. And
Mhm.
opinion and belief do not belong in an education system. It's just the way I think. How do you
Yeah,
have true knowledge
exactly.
of what's going on? You have to, what they say, higher mind. You have to be able to absorb the actual knowledge and the fact. Okay.
Mhm.
Not with belief and opinion. So I'm not saying people can't believe, that you can't have a belief and you can't have the opinion that that's the right way to be, that's the right way to raise your children, whatever. I'm saying in education we don't teach you to be that way, because that's not knowledge, that's belief
I
and opinion.
totally agree
and
with
you
you.
and you totally need to separate, and I don't find that
Mhm.
offensive. I don't know why they're so damn mad, because I'm not insulting them.
But think
I'm
about it
not.
though, Claire. If you were I've had this a lot with Christians in particular, and I'm just like you. Everybody should be able to believe whatever they want to believe. But you know what I've heard the most, Claire, coming out of Scientology? And they don't realize how offensive this is to me. They say, "Congratulations on getting out of Scientology. Now, when are you gonna find Jesus?" As if they themselves are not in a belief system that might need to be questioned from my point of view. In other words, they're so certain in their reality, which is taught in the Bible. I'm just giving you one example. Let's take Christians, that
Hmm.
from their point of view, until I find Jesus, I'm not deprogrammed. I'm not really out of Scientology,
Right.
and I haven't been saved. Now, from my perspective as a Scientologist, when I look at other religions, I've seen no other single subject other than maybe politics that is divided, separated, and
Hmm.
caused more war and turmoil by my belief is right and yours is wrong. I have the
Right,
right God, you have
judgment.
the wrong one, you know?
Right, totally
To
full of
me,
judgment.
to
Yep.
me, and this is going to offend everybody that's a religious believer, but it's just from my perspective, all religion is a form of mind control, not dissimilar. Now, Scientology is way more extreme, and that book that Steve Hassan dropped off that tells you if it's a destructive cult or not. There's a huge difference between a normal religion where you're free to come and go and
Mhm.
Scientology, and I make that distinction on the channel like crystal clear. So there is a massive distinction between religion, soft mind control, which I call it, and something like Scientology. But nonetheless, if that's your belief, when they say to me, "You're not really healed or you haven't really done the work, Doug, until you
Right.
find Jesus," that to me is
It's
so arrogant and so like, in other words, what they're saying is, I have the right belief system. I don't need to question it. I know that God is the way, and I'm gonna, live at the left-hand side of Jesus after I go in his kingdom of heaven.
mhm,
And to me, that's ludicrous. So it just depends on where that doesn't sound any more sane than what I was
right.
programmed to believe in Scientology,
Mhm.
but it all depends on what you believe in,
Right.
as to how you're gonna see it.
No, I true, and many in the chat agree with you. There's comments there like that. That's kind of the if you don't think like me, you're thinking wrong concept. The
And I
my
have
way
to
or the
I have to
highway.
check that
It's
all the time too. I
it,
have to
it's full of
constantly check that.
judgment. It's full
Yeah,
of
and I
judgment.
think
This
we
is
all
what
do
I
that
know.
though,
Yeah.
Claire. We all have our beliefs, so we just have to
Hmm.
work. I try to
Hmm.
understand people and get their viewpoint, especially
Hmm.
coming out of a cult. One thing I
Yeah.
need is a million different viewpoints, but I'm not gonna, but it doesn't mean that because I don't become a Christian or I join another religion, I don't feel that I'm making a wrong decision from my perspective. I feel like I'd be stepping back into another limited belief system that doesn't make any sense to me. But
Hmm.
again, I've tried to debate this. I don't do this anymore. I made a
Mm-mm.
mistake of getting involved in the comment section a couple days ago, and I
Yeah.
mess up once in a while. But I really
Mm-hmm.
do try to just not talk about religion
Well,
or
it's hard when we're
politics because
passionate about things, and it's
yeah,
easy with
we,
religion because of your experience from being in the cult. You
mhm.
recognize some of the things that might be cult-like about it. Now, I'm not saying all
Right,
religion is like a cult, but we have to
right,
say that when you have a big organization that all thinks one way and wants you to only do it their
yeah,
way, or you're not part of the group, that in its essence is very
yeah.
cult-like. But we could say the same thing about a basketball team. So I mean it
Yeah,
that
and maybe
generalized,
also,
okay?
Claire, that's
Yeah.
maybe, we have the tribal genes in us too, and we all wanna belong, so there's the
Tribalism
human nature part of it too.
Tribalism is a damn thing, okay? It is a
Mhm.
blinding damn thing. I put stuff
Yes.
out on tribalism all the thing. There's a there is a channel called They're on Trees that I
Mhm.
absolutely love. They're among trees in they do this psychology kind of deep breaking from the narcissist in the tribalism in the how did you get there and what happened kind of thing and give you like real life stories about it.
Nice.
It's very nice. I'll put the link down there for them. But I really
Mhm.
do think that you can actually I can be friends with people who are very I have friends in the chat right now who are very religious, and we have no
I have a
problem.
lot of friends
We
too that are
agree on
religious.
so many things. They'll even
Mhm.
agree, "Hey, I can believe and you cannot, and you're not pushing it on me and I'm not pushing it on you, and we're just fine." Because it doesn't mean I'm less than or they're less than. We are
Mhm.
just have different ways of looking at things and believing in them, but they're not trying to convert me. I can understand if somebody's trying to convert you, that can be offensive. You know,
You know what?
I
You know another thing on that though, Claire, that's so interesting that you just bring that up?
Mhm.
Because, I said the same thing in Scientology. Like I wasn't trying I would tell people I'm not trying to convert them, and I wouldn't spend a lot of I didn't like getting people into Scientology. It was so difficult. But secretly, because I was a Scientologist, and this is how my parents feel, which makes me feel so weird, because they know that because I left, I don't even know if they know I speak out or if they know about my YouTube
Mhm.
channel. I thought they were going to show up at my doorstep after the first video came out, like a couple days after. And the fact that they haven't, I know the church has let them know, so I know they know about it. But it's weird that they haven't confronted me. But you know what they're thinking, which broke my heart for the longest time? Because I know the programming of Scientology. They know that because I left, they worry about me. They think I'm half evil and half just really, really misguided.
Mhm.
And from there, if only they knew, like they can't see their predicament just like I couldn't. So one of us is actually right. Like Scientology really does do actual real life damage. They really are under mind control. That's a fact, but they haven't stepped outside of it to see that. So it's not like I'm from from their perspective, and they'll probably go to their graves with that. They're going to
Mhm.
think that their son is just bad and wrong, and they never
Mhm.
got to really see the real me. And minus that belief system,
Mhm.
see, here's the thing though, Claire. Like the Christians don't generally preach to me, and I'm just picking them as an example. There's many other
Mhm.
religion. I'm just giving you an example, the one that's come at me the most. They say that they're not trying to convert me, and they don't, for generally speaking. But there's a secret desire I feel just like when I was in Scientology, that you wish everybody was a Scientologist. I'm just not going to say it out loud. Hey, I don't want to break
All
our
right.
friendship, so I'm just going to
Mhm.
be cool with you and we're just going to keep a surface level
Yeah.
conversation. But you know the difference between me and my parents? I don't want anybody to believe. I don't have a belief in anything. I don't have I'm not tied to any group.
Mhm.
So I don't need to push my will onto anybody, but secretly they want to push their will on me. And they'll never let me back in their life until I get back into Scientology and make
Well,
up the
they
damage. And
can't,
Mhm.
right? Under the Scientology rules, they really
Because of
can't,
their
can they?
belief, though. And all I'm
Right.
saying is most of the Christians that I've run across, and there'll be exceptions to this, they don't try to preach, but secretly, deep down, they wish that everybody was a Christian. And that's where
Mhm.
conversations get very surface level, and you have to dance around, again, discussing politics or religion with anybody,
Right,
because
and it
I
yeah.
don't want anybody to convert to anything. I don't have anything to sell. But
Mhm.
as a Scientologist, I did, and I would pretend like I wasn't preaching, and I very rarely got people in, and most people never even knew I was a Scientologist. It's something you keep a secret. But deep
Mhm.
down, and I imagine the religious believers feel the same, they know. They don't think, Claire. They know that until you and the rest of us find Jesus, you're fucking screwed. And they don't see that
I
that
know.
that might be
Well,
something that for
yeah,
them to
because that's
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
and as long as they're, I kind of get what you're saying. I do. And they do because they have that belief that they need to be saved and they believe in things that I do not. And
Mhm.
it can make it uncomfortable. But like it's not a
Mhm.
matter of first of all, it's such a large group. When you say the word Christians, we're talking about
Mhm.
millions of different religions. Okay,
I think
like
yeah. I
whoa,
think
and
there's like
different levels.
1.4,
Yeah.
I think what is
Like
there, 7,000,000,000
mhm,
in the world, give or take, and then there's
exactly.
1.4
So
billion, one
so
out of 7 that are
it's
Christians.
really hard to say like that they're all the same because of course you've
S
got Jehovah's that come to your door and knock and like they are
Absolutely.
very out there with it,
The
and then
Mormons, yeah,
and you have
those
Mormons
people.
and those that don't believe in celebration or anything and you can't
Mhm.
do anything, and then you have regular everyday people that just believe in God and doing good.
Yeah,
And that is
different
their
levels.
total belief. And some of them don't even believe in organized religion. They won't go to church. They just want to
Mhm.
believe what they believe. And I'm all
Yep.
for it. I am all for it. I just want to just put out there that there's so many different levels that just that one word could not encapsulate
Oh,
the
absolutely.
whole attitude that they come at you with it, because we're talking about some very aggressive, as there are in all um organizations.
No, you're
I'm not
right.
even gonna use the C word cult, all cultish type, all right?
Mhm.
Not calling it a cult, but cultish type
Groups, yeah.
organizations, groups that have agendas that want to push it on it because there
Mhm.
is even, unfortunately, as an atheist, groups like that in atheism
Oh,
that
I've ran across
that
those.
I
I've
am
ran across
so
atheists that are
offended.
more religious, like they're more extreme than, any
Exactly.
Christians I
They
met, yeah.
put down people who believe, like, actually consider
I
them
know.
less than or less intelligent, and I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
that's great. How do you do that?" These are individual people from all different walks of life, from all different levels of education. You can't lump them up in one thing
Mhm.
because of their belief. That to me is just that's what we fight against
Mhm.
constantly. So why are they doing it? But it happens in all organizations like that, that they
Absolutely.
just it can become very cultish in a way, and that's what I push against. It's just but this has been one hell of a conversation, Doug.
No shit. Where was God,
Like
I got so
yeah,
lost in it. I forgot,
okay.
like
I don't
yeah.
think you were lost. I think that was free.
No,
I
I
think
mean,
it
not
was
lost in the
great.
time. I just looked
Yeah.
at it. We've been going for
Mhm.
2.5 hours, but I could
I know.
easily just sit here for another 2.5
Well,
hours.
then I do hope that you would be willing to come back because I'm
I
sure
don't think
there's
any
many
of your
beautiful
guests are ever gonna want me to come back on again. I think I
I don't
offended
think if
probably
I put I
everybody.
could I don't think so. I really don't because I know how they ride and
Okay.
they're just pushing back the same way you would. They're gonna look, yo,
I
like
haven't looked at the comments, but
citation.
I'm
They're gonna
afraid to.
say,
Yeah.
well, just in regards, if I'm not even gonna bring up again, but just to cut into the one subject, they're just gonna say citation needed. Let's go over the science. Let's go over the actual studies. Let's like they're just gonna push back on knowledge a little bit and just
I
because
know.
this
I've
is where
already
they're
had this
coming
debate
from.
with the
Yeah.
wokers. I've had it
Mhm.
with Christians.
Mhm.
I every time this is why I try to keep my mouth shut on those two subjects we talked about, because
Mhm.
every time I'll always get emails and I'm not going to have a debate with anybody about this because it just once their belief is set, they
Mhm.
then need to teach me. Like for
It
example, I talked about, the
Mhm.
Christian element on an interview last week, and
Mhm.
I got like 4 or 5 emails from people trying to tell
Well
me how wrong I am, that I don't understand their viewpoint on both. And it's just like I'm sorry, I'm not looking to be sold on that, you know?
well, let me just read from the chat to you. You made a
Yes,
statement.
please.
Okay, listen. Excellent conversation, Doug. Definitely come back.
Oh, thank
Come
you.
back from someone else.
Well, that's a
Doug,
nice
I
person, whoever
disagree
said that.
with you, but come back. Doug for
Okay.
Mayhem, which is another show I do that is really kind of crazy.
Oh, cool.
Doug, I am not pissed at you. I just encourage you to come back and let's be more informed. Let's look at it. I want you back. It's good, Doug. We can't fix problems without listening to each other. Please come back. Hey, my beaver's here. Hey, Doug, I already followed you. Come back. Mip it.
And
Ignore the
Beaver called me a
asshole.
goof. All right, all
I
right.
know you're a goof,
I
right?
thought Beaver was
Yep.
gonna
And Mippet,
nail me.
my good friend Mippet is telling you just ignore the assholes. Like here, we don't judge. I might be small, but there's no judgment here. Like you come back and we talk about
You
anything,
keep saying
including
that too, by the way, Claire. Don't
what
underestimate the value.
eh,
I mean,
mm, yeah.
hey,
I wanna
you're
stay humble.
yeah.
You know, I don't know. Actually, I never even intended it to get is where it is now, but I
Yeah,
do
and you're
enjoy the
monetized,
conversation.
and you've got a great chat and everything, and also,
Mhm,
as you know, starting a YouTube channel, which completely shocked me because I'm like as non-tech savvy as you can possibly get.
mhm,
Just putting yourself out there on the internet like you are and opening yourself up is a brave thing to do in itself. You know
mhm.
how challenging it is to kind of
I do,
go on
and I
this
had
social, put yourself
yeah.
out there on
I I do, and I did have to make concessions with it and things that I'm uncomfortable with and everything
how
because I wanted
so?
well, one for one, you see we're avatars, right? That is the
Hmm.
biggest one right there. I wanted it to
Hmm.
be about the conversation. And I
I
noticed
see.
as a woman, some of the conversations, and then people would be in the chat like, I like your hair today, nice
Yeah, I
sweater.
know. I
Don't you
hate
look
that.
great? And I'm like, you know what? I am a
It's
woman.
about the
And you know what?
conversation.
I want to spend time on what I'm thinking and what I'm expressing.
Mhm.
And you know, people, I love you, but I ain't gonna be getting myself ready for 3 hours for you to talk for
Hey,
3
I
hours.
gotta tell you,
That's just
I love this thing, man. It was so nice not having to set up the freaking
see,
camera. We can just
see,
focus on the conversation. I'm sitting here.
and
I mean,
that's the
I'm
point.
basically
But
in my
yeah,
pajamas, but this is
yeah.
I really, really like this style,
It
by the
was
way.
about comfort and freedom to be only about
Nice.
what we're talking about. And they
Mhm.
want to turn it into something else, like I'm hiding, like
Mhm.
I'm like some kind of monster behind here. I'm not. Everybody knows my name. It's a real name. I've been doxxed. They all know who the hell I am.
Oh,
Some of
shit.
them even know what I look like. But the channel itself is always just going to be about the conversation in the topic. It's not going to be,
I
you know,
like it.
for all they know, I'm a bombshell and I'll just distract them. They won't hear a damn word I say. Like, what
Claire,
the
you
hell?
gotta show us what you look like someday.
No,
Have
no,
you ever
no, no. It's
Yes,
not gonna happen.
yes.
It's not
Now
gonna
the
happen.
curiosity is peaking on
Yeah,
everybody.
well, there you go.
Do you
There's the
look
hook.
anything like that
See?
avatar?
I do my hair is that long. It is that red.
Okay.
My eyes are brown. I'm a little older than that avatar, although if you look at it close, it has a couple lines. I do stare at people with that look. People that know me
Okay, I
have a
could see
picture
that.
of me that looks just like that, looking at them like,
That's
uh-huh.
funny.
And I don't really wear cat ears out in public though. I will tell you that. But, you know.
Okay, and
But
then the glasses are obviously,
they're sunglasses, but I am a little older now. I wear glasses occasionally, like right now to look at all the writing because my monitor is farther away from me. I needed to put my glasses on to look at it, but I don't care. People look hot in glasses. I don't care. I don't
yeah.
care.
I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't even on my mind before, but now you've created it in Scientology what they call a mystery sandwich. Need to know
Well,
what
there
you
you
look like.
go. Guess I'm smarter than the average bear. There's
You
the hook,
are an
people.
undercover cult leader. I feel like I see how you work. Are you
I
Scientology has
that was
plants
the
all over the internet too. How do I know
I
that? No.
I don't know. I'm also snarky AF too, but I
By the way, you know what? You know what, Claire? You know
what?
Aaron Smith Levin? Did you talk to Aaron
I
on your
have
channel?
not. I have not. No, I would love
Okay.
to though. I would lo I it's hard because, like, I would love to talk to a lot of them, but it's hard to try to connect with them on social media. They don't have open DMs. I'm, like,
I
looking
tell
for
me about it.
email
I can't get
addresses. Yeah.
it's been challenging to get guests to come on
Mhm,
too. It really is
mhm,
has been challenging, and I don't know where to find them and all that stuff too. But we were having a conversation, and he said that OSA, their little intelligence division, has
mhm.
to watch every video on Scientology. So there's a decent chance that there's actually a Scientologist, not Scientologists in general, because they won't click on it, but they have a special unit that has to watch all the videos
Mhm.
according to Aaron. So there might very well be people watching us right now. I don't know what the relevance
Really?
of that is, but yeah.
I don't know, but then I hope they like my avatar. Yeah, how you like me now,
And not only
Scientology?
that, by the way,
Yeah.
as we talk, I always have this vision of like the people that would be watching these videos and their intelligence unit are like these really hardened members in general. Like you can't break them for anything because they have to listen to
Mhm.
anti-Scientologists, quote
They
unquote,
do.
talk.
Mhm.
So I always feel like during these conversations, one or two of these people that has to monitor these things is just gonna wake up by listening to one of these conversations because just by us talking. So you never know what good it's doing. Yeah, someone just said AA Ron.
Yeah. Yes. No, I do watch
Mhm.
some of his stuff. I do watch a lot of it because, especially if you're coming from the perspective that you've been there, because I think that's
Mhm.
important if I've got certain opinions about Scientology and I'm reading up on it to understand what it was like to be there. So it's very informative to me, and I want to bring that into all the information that I'm gathering that might be more statistical or all of that up. And even to
Mhm.
be fair, if they are listening, I hope they really are listening because they will have heard
Mhm.
me say on my channel, listen, Scientology, you got every right to do what you do. I just expect you to do better and cause less damage. Like the culture you created to have
But how
some
do
of
they
you,
do that, Claire, when they
I
don't
don't
know that they're damaging people? That's the thing.
know.
I really
Well, if
thought
they
we
just
were
look at the
acting.
well, we could win this back because in 15
Mhm.
minutes I have another show and it's gonna be on the trial. And my
Oh, shit, I
opinion
gotta let you
there
go.
no, you could come over and join me if you want, I don't care. But I just, I mean, I care. I care that you're there. I mean, it's not a big problem, like,
I
no worries. But the thing with Scientology is if they actually look at it and they look at the
Mhm.
culture they're creating where something can go that wrong,
Mhm.
okay, and those feelings, and they can deny what happened like that, that's what I'm talking about, do better. They
Mhm.
can change
Yeah,
inside
absolutely.
to fix that problem. They just need to look at
Absolutely.
it, and they are
That's the
entitled to be
hardest
an
part.
organization. They are entitled to do what they're doing. You know, people wanna belong, they wanna belong, but the damage is what I have a problem with. The damage to
Yeah.
people. When you tell somebody that a certain word doesn't exist and how they're feeling is not how they're feeling and it's impossible to
Mhm.
have happened, that's wrong. That's denying, like, that's fear. I would just like Scientology to try managing people without the fear, just a little bit, like, just like
Yeah, you're just taking me back to I just can jump right back. I've been out for what, over like what, how many years has it been? 14 years. And I can jump back into that mindset like it was yesterday and
mhm,
remember what it's like. And all I'm seeing right now is just like the power of my conviction that if I was talking to you right now and I listened to what you just said as a Scientologist, if only you knew how much that doesn't register. Like all that's registering in my mind, let's say I'm a Scientologist right now. All
mhm.
I'm doing is looking at how you don't know the tech. You've never checked out Scientology. You've never even gone down there. You've never even had an auditing session, Claire. You have
How do they
no
know? They
idea what
don't
you're talking.
know that.
I'm just
They don't
telling you,
know.
this is
Yeah.
completely incorrect. This is completely incorrect what I'm saying because
Yeah.
we're brainwashed. We can't see what you're talking about. I wouldn't even listen to what you just said, which is scary, by the way, just going back into this
Mm,
mode, because it's
mhm,
like, part of that is the phobia indoctrination. So the outside world is wrong. You don't know anything about the reactive mind. You know nothing about Scientology. So Claire's wrong. I'm not even going to listen. And also, there's a superiority complex. This is what I kind of feel with the religious believers that are really hardcore and come on to me. They're so confident and certain about what they believe in. It never even crosses their mind to self inspect their own, that they might have it wrong. You were
mhm,
never going to convince me that there was anything wrong with Scientology. It's actually terrifying just even going back into this headspace
mhm,
because Claire, the power of mind control is not to be underestimated. And once our belief is captured, short of that Steve Hassan book, I just don't know how the hell I would have ever been able to see my own blind spots. They're
Well
blind for a reason. You can't see them.
well,
Otherwise,
the
everybody would leave Scientology tomorrow because it would be
I
really
don't
obvious.
I don't consider you blind. Just the ability that you opened that book, you read it, and something clicked, you understood what he was trying to say, you were able to map it up to exactly what was going on instantly. You
But I
were
don't think
really
I could have
kind
done
of
it. I don't
you were
think I
there
could have done I
already.
don't think any cult member could do anything other than do that. That's why, like, the hardest part would be to get somebody to read it. You couldn't just go drop this off at everybody's house that you
But
think is
that's
a
why
because
they
they won't
tell
read it.
everybody don't read, right? Because that's the fear there,
Yes.
is that if there
And
is you
phobia
see
indoctrination. In other words, Claire, we don't even I didn't even get to, am I going to read this book or not? My immediate thought was none of that. It's, this guy's evil. He thinks I'm in a cult. Scientology is the greatest thing in the world. And I'm going to
Mhm.
go report this guy. It's not like I'm sitting there.
Mhm.
Our critical thinking was shut down a long time ago in the cult. So I didn't have the ability to question that. And because the reason I didn't is because what people don't see is all the phobia indoctrination that goes in to
Mhm.
make the outside world and people like Claire that are speaking out about Scientology and me or whatever, we are not to even be engaged with. We're a subspecies according to the thought process
Mhm.
that's inculcated into
Suppressive.
us.
Mhm.
Yeah. Suppressives.
We are
Yeah.
less than. We're suppressives. We're just trying to
Yeah.
interfere with your growth and the unlocking of your true being that is higher
Yeah.
than all. No, I get it. Look, like I
Yeah.
get what they're saying. And all I'm doing is trying to be like, and but I'm not even a radical about it. I speak
I
common
know.
sense. I'm just
I
trying to be
know.
kind to
I
them and say,
know.
listen, I just want you to do better. Do what you do, boo, but could you stop hurting people? Because like it really hurts me to talk with these people and to hear what happened to them and things like that. Like, I'm just do a little bit
Mhm.
better. That's all I and for them to come at me like, "Oh my God, you're the worst thing in the world." That just speaks to me of fear. And if you need fear to control people, then you're really not so secure with what you're doing too. Because when the truth comes
Mhm.
down to it, David Miscavige knows that that book only goes so far. He knows what that book was. He knows how they made that
Mhm.
money. He knows what
He
Hubbard
does,
did.
but not the people below him. Like, until this is
Mhm,
what makes it so evil, Claire, is that like, if you just stay at the lower levels of Scientology where they have basic tools for life, they all have a snag in it. They're all kind of evil and
mhm,
manipulative. But if you just stay at the lower levels, these people have no idea why people like Aaron or me or Mike or Rind or whatever are speaking out, because it depends on how it's a secret society. So the truth changes as you go up. And the more you invest in it, the more of the secrets you learn. And the truth changes all the way. So only
mhm,
if you get into it really deep. I got close to the very top of the bridge. I've been in it for a couple decades and I drank the Kool-Aid every single day. So from that level, you're in a horror show. But if you're just in and around the lower levels, which is what most people are at, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money, and only a small percentage become the hardcore ones. But if you're just at the lower levels, you wouldn't see any of the abuses. And by the time you get up to the higher levels and you're in it forever and do suss the abuses, you're so much a part of it and it's so justified. You literally can't see your situation. That's why I call it the
mhm.
Truman Show.
Wow, and
Everybody
it
around you is under the
yeah.
same spell and reinforcing it.
You know what? I hear that, and that leads me to, like, the last question.
Yeah, I know I gotta let
I
you
had
go. I'm sorry. I
no,
could
no,
literally
no.
talk to you forever.
Well, we're
I'm
gonna
really
talk
liking this
again.
conversation.
you are when I say that you are welcome back, I really, really mean it, and I really am gonna hit you up with Discord because
Hey,
this
when
is
I say I'll
totally
come back, I'd
enjoyable.
really like to continue the conversation. So anytime.
Yeah, so no, really, we will, and if you wanna jump on my and talk about Masterson on the next one, you're more than welcome. I mean, I'm fine with that. I
Yeah, I
think
wish we could have covered that, Claire, because we could have gotten into that, and then you just had a mistrial.
he did.
They had to redo
I
it again,
actually
but we
do
could do it
have
like
it
a part.
scheduled. I have it coming tonight
Oh,
in 15
okay.
minutes on
Let me
this
let you
channel.
go.
No, no, let
You got to
me answer you this
prepare.
one question for no, I don't no, I'm prepared, dude, let me tell you.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay. I'll
I've been
back
prepared.
off. Kitten's
But
got
listen,
claws. Okay.
no, 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 no,
I'm
no, no,
just
no,
fucking with you.
no, no, really. I just,
I'll
my
definitely be
question
checking that
was,
out.
and I think you definitely, and I'll drop a link, you can pop up if you like. I
Sure.
definitely hear what you're saying about that, and it brought me to the question of, with all like right now, leading into
Mhm,
what I'm going to cover late in like a few minutes here.
mhm.
I do cover a lot of the legal. There are so many
I know.
lawsuits against Scientology
I
right now.
know.
They're
Yeah,
coming out about the child
yeah,
abuses, the
yeah.
labor laws, the
Trafficking. Yep, a whole
trafficking,
bunch.
child trafficking. They're
That's why I really
talking about
appreciate you
the
covering this because not
harassment.
a lot of people are covering this.
I'm
Yes,
covering all of those.
I
Tony
know.
Ortega is like such a source on the legal stuff, and I love legal, and I've been get the
Mhm.
lawsuits, and I literally do read them over coffee
I
constantly.
believe you.
And um, what my question is, do you see this doing anything now that we've had a public
That's a
trial
great
like
question.
Masterson?
You wanna
We
hear
got
m
this
Yeah,
big public negative thing out there. What about the John Travoltas and the Tom Cruises of the world? Do you see this affecting their relationship with Scientology at all?
not at all. Not
Mm.
long as they're under the spell, they actually have a way of inverting what's happening where they actually think they're winning somehow. I can't explain it other than
I
just to tell
have
you that
seen them up their positive,
that's what
promotion
happens. Yep, that's what
because, like,
happens. Because
they even
Claire, the
got
more
mentioned in the governor's race for crikey, like,
Claire, to
crikey,
cult
like, they
members when you attack them, it just validates the fact that there really is a conspiracy against them. All it does is push their belief and their fervor even higher. So this isn't doing anything to the true believers. But are you asking, do I think Scientology is going to go down, or are these legal
No.
cases going to take their taxes down? What are you asking specifically? Uh,
Just that do you think it will make some of these higher profile people think a little bit about their reputations?
It just depends. Like I said, if they're still hardcore believing Scientologists, which John Travolta and Tom Cruise are now. John Travolta's lost his son, for Christ's sake,
I
partially
know.
due to the taking him off his medication,
Mhm.
allegedly, and he's had all sorts of losses that are happening from his belief in Scientology. But again, because Scientology got there first and he was lacking confidence, and then they love bombed him. He started getting commercials, then he got Welcome Back Cotter. He started getting acting jobs. And just like my dad, where he was kind of down and out and then became quite rich, quote unquote, because of Scientology, because that happened to the Scientologists, because they feel like they're attributing all their gains to Scientology and they got something out of it. This goes back to the very beginning of the conversation where they'll put up with tremendous amounts of abuse and cognitive dissonance from that point forward, because they
Mhm.
would have to go all the way back and somehow understand that it wasn't helping you. It was hypnosis. It wasn't positive for you. You were being love bombed. This is why, until they can understand that those wins and gains in their life were for their own doing, not from Scientology, they'll put up with anything and they'll deny it forever. Like Tom Cruise, for example, he has a comfortable life. He has no reason to question his life, no matter how much challenge he gets. And the more people challenge him on the outside, and the more people are against it, all it's doing is reaffirming how right he is about being a Scientologist. That there really is a conspiracy by the government and people to take down the greatest thing.
Mhm.
That I'm just telling you, like, when we're inside of it, there's no doubt that we have something very special and that you guys on the outside are lacking. And if you challenge us on that, you're just letting your reactive mind show even more. And it just pushes us to go even more hardcore. So the only people
Right.
that are going to get out are people that are already on the fence, that are already questioning. And so something like this can and will do something to those people, but not to the Travoltas and the Tom Cruises or the Mastersons at all. It'll just push them in even further. But
Oh,
what?
no.
But and then just to end off real quick, because I know you got to go. In terms of taking down the whole thing, I've just seen Scientology. They have endless criminal activities, and it doesn't matter how much they do. I think they're being protected somehow because it doesn't matter what exposure they are not really going to be challenged by the government. It doesn't seem so. It seems like the abuse will go, I don't know, just go on indefinitely.
Mm.
So if Tom Cruise came out, he could be a massive catalyst to take this thing down. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not.
No. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
he'll be in for
It would.
life.
I mean, it would definitely be
He's
like,
also a psychopath too, in my opinion. So
yeah.
he's benefiting. He's benefiting by being in there. He's different than most of the people. He wouldn't have any reason to leave. He's the number two guy and is getting a lot of power, and he uses their Sea Org
Mhm.
members to get things done. He's benefiting by it. And you know
Mhm.
what? You know what it is, Claire?
What?
Unless something happens that challenges your belief system that's so extreme, unless I call it like a hammer has to be smashed over your head, like an opportunity was Travolta losing his son Jet. That would have been an opportunity for him to wake up, but the Scientologist jumped on him, gave him a lot of processing to get him through that grief. And so they were double time, triple time on making sure he doesn't break out of the bubble. Because
Mhm.
when people can break out, is when they have a huge, huge loss. I had to lose everything to get out of Scientology. And that's generally what it takes to break the spell once you go in
Mhm.
too deep.
Wow. Mm. And on that,
Yes.
so it is obvious to me that it just is such a process, and it's
Mhm.
I can see that
Mhm.
every day now it still affects you, all of it.
I
Um,
can't not. It's
yeah,
something
it
I
can't
have to
not.
integrate. It'll
It's
always be a
well,
part of me. I can't get rid
because
of
of
it.
like, and so that is why, when they say like, why are people like Leah and Mike and Tony and
Mhm.
yourself, Aaron,
Mhm.
Andrew, so many people out
Mhm.
there speaking on it, because what else are they going to do? Like, what else are they actually going to do? It's the process of getting out there, the misinformation, trying to clear it up, trying to help people understand so it doesn't keep continuing.
And it's
Like, it's really,
also
Yeah.
It's also sad too, because what I'm thinking is, can't we all just get along? Like this evil man named L. Ron Hubbard, who's been dead since 1986, took my
Mhm.
family from me, drove a wedge where there was no wedge before, and we
Mhm.
all suddenly had to do our lives around this psychopath. And minus this man coming into our lives, everything and all of us would have been just fine. But because that happens, there's nothing I can do to undo it. That's the way my
It
life
is.
played out. So it's
Mhm.
all really sad because my parents don't actually hate me. They love me. And I
Right.
don't hate my parents at all, and they're forgiven.
Mhm.
Forgive them for they know not what they do. But
I
at the same time, it's all just so sad,
It
and
is
and
because
unnecessary.
it is because,
Unnecessary.
like, people on the outside don't understand because of their family relations. They say, "Well, that could never happen. I love them too much. I could never cut them off."
Yes,
You really don't
exactly.
have a choice because they've
Exactly.
ingrained the whole system around it
Yeah.
that's just it. Like, you don't it's just the you don't have a choice. It's not like you actually have
Mhm.
a choice on it.
You
And I
nailed
and
it.
I feel for you because you're not only are you dealing with the loss of a belief system that was so
Mhm.
ingrained in you, but you've also lost your total support system at the same time when you had
Yeah,
nobody.
it's
Don't
definitely made
think.
it challenging. I can say
Yeah.
that. I've had
No.
to embrace, being a kind of a loner and being
Mhm.
by myself a lot.
Right.
Um, but I didn't choose that. I feel like that was something L. Ron Hubbard imposed on our life. Like I said,
Mm.
minus
Making it
this
more
minus
difficult.
him, I would have lived a very different life. I don't regret it, Claire. I learned a lot, and there's nothing I can do to change it either. So I have to integrate it. It's something I had to
Mhm.
come to terms with, but
Mhm.
I'll never be okay with that happening. You know,
Mhm.
I'll never be. I'll
Exactly.
never. Hubbard will never get a free pass in my mind. You know what I mean?
Mhm. No, I get it. I totally get it. On that, Doug, I'm gonna invite
Okay.
you back anytime you want. I dropped you the link in here. Gave them the link to the
Oh, on
next
the
stream.
private chat. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll come
Um,
join you right now.
if you want to, I'm gonna take a potty break, so to speak,
Yeah, yeah, me too.
and drink some water. So it'll be like 15 or no minutes. But if you want to talk about the trial, you're more than welcome because
Or
that's a
can
whole
I
nother.
just I mean, we just went for like 3 hours. Can I watch you and
Sure, you can.
just
That
check
link
I
here.
just
Let
wanna
me
kick
give you
back
that
and
link.
fricking
That
watch your
one is in.
show.
I put that in the Hold on
Yes,
a
I see in
second.
the private chat.
No, that's the
You're gonna be talking
StreamYard.
about Masterson right now?
I am going to talk about Masterson in about
Okay,
15
cool.
minutes, and then
I wanna
here
hear what you have to say.
that is actually the link to the back room, but here is the link to the
Alright.
actual stream. Oh,
Okay,
wrong
thank
one.
you.
Wait, disregard that. That's not it.
Alright,
It
disregarded.
yeah, it didn't it for some reason it's got the wrong one. Oh, there it is. Here's the YouTube one. I copied the
Claire,
wrong
do you
link.
want me to jump in on the stream? Or I mean, I don't wanna
I mean,
impose, and it's like your
you it's
stream. I
not no, it's not an imposition at all. Number one, this is a pleasant. You have knowledge, and I'm fine with it.
I
Absolutely, I
think you
wouldn't
have
say
more
so.
knowledge about that. I've been listening to your
Mhm.
take on Masterson. You know a hell of a
Yeah,
lot more than I do.
yeah,
But
but I always do better with somebody to bounce off. Like, I'll be honest with you. You can
well,
absolutely.
sure, I'll
This is
jump in if you want, but I don't want to steal
yeah.
your thunder because you said you had it all laid out and stuff.
Come on, Doug. Okay,
I'm serious. I've been
here's
learning. I'm not up
here's
to
where you
speed on
learn
this
I'm
like
not
you
so
are.
humble. You really think you could steal my thunder with all I know about
Oh, really?
Masterson,
Okay.
dude?
I'm jealous now. I'll see you in the stream, young lady.
I was
It's
hoping you
on.
could.
Bring it.
Yeah, it's on like Kong. Okay, I will
Uh,
see you over there.
all
You
right.
see,
All right.
we are very much alike. You're trying to be
We
really
are.
polite and everything, and I get it. But when I
But
say
then
you're
our real
welcome, you really
character comes
are.
out at
You
the
are.
end. That's so funny.
It is.
Okay, I'll
No,
join you. I'll
no,
join you
no.
after potty break.
Okay, we'll do party break and I'll see you then. Everybody,
Cool.
I'll put the stream link there for you. Hopefully some of you can make it. This has been an amazing
Yeah, you have
conversation,
really
Doug.
cool commenters, by the way, and Beaver's
They
unit has just won my heart. What a cool person.
Yeah, they're just, opinions always welcome. Everybody in the chat, that's how they roll. And that's only half of them. Like I said, there's like just the ones that can get away during the day. I do thrive on their interaction and their support and just having open, honest
I feel
discourse.
you.
And I have to tell you, Doug, you brought it. That was open, honest discourse. I thank you sincerely. That was the
You
best
as
three
well,
hours
Clara.
I've had in a long time.
Thank
And
you
don't
for an equally stimulating conversation. I really appreciate it.
I hope we can do more. We will do.
Absolutely.
It'll be great. So I'm gonna bounce. I'm gonna put on that
Okay.
You're gonna get really relaxed with this lovely
Ah,
outro from Counter Talk.
nice. Let's
I'm
see
gonna
it.
play my members list first, and then we're gonna go with the. Oh, I'm not gonna. My members list isn't here, so I'm gonna just go with the outro. Sorry, members. I'll get you on the next one. But thank you to all of my members and my Patreon members. You know who you are, and I really appreciate every single one of you.
And thank
On
you, Claire.
that. On that, Doug, I'll see you in a little bit.
See you on the flip side.
Hmm.
Bye.